morning, everyone. This is the public hearing and public meeting of the Committee of the Whole regarding bills numbers 260199, 260200, 260201, 260202, 260203, 260204, 260205, 260206, 260208, 260209, and resolution number 260227. Ms. Lawhead, will you please call the roll and take attendance?
Councilmember Squilla, Councilmember Gautier, Councilmember Jones, Councilmember Young, Councilmember Driscoll, Councilmember Zlotta, Councilmember Bass, Councilmember Phillips, Councilmember O'Neill, Councilmember Gilmore Richardson, Councilmember Thomas, Councilmember Harity, Councilmember Ahmed, Councilmember Landau, Councilmember Brooks, Councilmember O'Rourke, Council President Johnson.
President. Thank you, Ms. Lawhead. A quorum of the committee is present, and this hearing is now officially called to order. Ms. Lawhead, will you please read the title of the bills and resolutions?
Bill number 260199, an ordinance adopting the operating budget for fiscal year 2027. Bill number 260200, an ordinance to adopt a fiscal year 2027 capital budget. Bill number 260201, an ordinance to adopt a capital program for the 6 fiscal years 2027 through 2032 inclusive. Bill number 260202, an ordinance amending Chapter 19-2400 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Hotel Room Rental Tax by providing for an additional excise tax on hotel room rentals, all under certain terms and conditions. Bill number 260203, an ordinance amending Subcode A, the Philadelphia Administrative Code, Title IV of the Philadelphia Code, the Building, Construction, and Occupancy Code, by adding and revising zoning board of adjustment fees and provisions regarding hearing scheduling, all under certain terms and conditions. Bill number 260204, an ordinance amending Title III of the Philadelphia Code, entitled Air Management Code, to modify the amounts of license and permit fees under certain terms and conditions. Bill number 260205, an ordinance amending Section 1806 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Authorization of Realty Use and Occupancy Tax to clarify the imposition of the tax on the use or occupancy of real estate with respect to cell towers, all under certain terms and conditions. Bill number 260206, an ordinance amending Chapter 600 of the Philadelphia Code Asbestos by adding and revising provisions related to various fees, all under certain terms and conditions. Bill number 260208, an ordinance amending Chapter 1800 of the Philadelphia Code entitled School Tax Authorization to add a new Section 1808 entitled Authorization of Rideshare Use Tax to authorize the Board of the School District of Philadelphia to levy a tax upon the use by a passenger of a transportation network company for a prearranged ride that originates in Philadelphia, all under certain terms and conditions. Bill number 260209, an ordinance amending Title 19 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Finance, Taxes, and Collections to add a new Chapter 194800 entitled Retail Delivery Tax to establish a tax on orders for the delivery in Philadelphia of retail consumer or other tangible goods, all under certain terms and conditions. And resolution number 260227, providing for the approval by the Council of the City of Philadelphia of a revised 5-year financial plan for the City of Philadelphia covering fiscal years 2027 through 2031, and incorporating revisions with respect to fiscal year 2026, which is to be submitted by the mayor to the Pennsylvania Intergovernmental Cooperation Authority pursuant to an intergovernmental cooperation agreement by and between the city and the authority.
Today we hold the public hearing of the Committee of the Whole to consider the bills read by the clerk that constitute proposed operating capital spending measures for fiscal year 2027, a capital program, and a forward-looking capital plan for fiscal year 2027 through fiscal year 2032. This morning we have scheduled testimony from the Philadelphia Police Department and the Office of Public Safety. Ms. Lawhead, will you please call the first panel to testify from the administration?
The first panel to testify is Kevin Bethel, Police Commissioner, and Adam Geer, Chief Public Safety Director.
Thank you very much. Just state your name for the record, Commissioner, and you can begin your testimony.
Yeah, thank you, President Johnson. Kevin Bethel, Philadelphia Police Commissioner. Good morning, Council President Johnson and members of City Council. Joining today is my leadership team and those who are here to support me in the work we do to make the city of Philadelphia safe. Speaking of support, I want to recognize Mayor Parker for her leadership, her understanding, and her unwavering commitment to public safety. She gets it, ladies and gentlemen. From the campaign trail to her very first days in office, Mayor Parker made it clear public safety wasn't going to be just about words on a page. It was about going to be the real action and the foundation of the work we do every day. Her emergency declaration set the tone, and everything we've done since then, from our 100-day plan to the 5-year strategic plan, which I'll talk through today, builds directly on her prevention, intervention, and enforcement framework and the vision for this city. That support and my belief in the men and women of this department is why I say it again. We are the finest police department in the nation. I don't say that with an ego, nor do I say it with arrogance. I say it because we are mindful and purposeful in how we enforce the law, invest our money, train our workforce, build trust in the community, and partner with only the best, and relay real-time data. Utilize the most up-to-date technology, and most importantly, checking on one another through a multi-tiered health and wellness program to make sure we are all doing okay. But we can't be the finest without the financial backing of City Council. You'll recognize and hear about the work you approved. Each one of you, how big or small, helped to move the police department forward. Councilman Jones, your blueprint for a safer Philadelphia, assisted in our early work, and continue to guide us today. Before I go any further, though, I want to ground this moment where it belongs, with the men and women of the Philadelphia Police Department.
Right.
Every day in every neighborhood, they show up, sometimes on someone's worst day, because they believe in the work, they believe in their city. They are officers, detectives, analysts, commanders, professional staff members across this organization who carry this work forward under difficult circumstances with professionalism and with heart. And I want to acknowledge them and ask them to stand because they sit behind me today. Stand up. I've always emphasized in this work, you don't do this work by yourself. Yeah, you do it with the men and women on the ground, and there's just a representative of that, and I'm so grateful for them. This budget, this process, this plan is an investment in them. If I can take a moment to recognize, and I did that with my men and women, you'll see that they are officers who patrol our neighborhoods every day, detectives who work tirelessly to bring answers to families, forensic scientists and analysts who turn evidence into truth, professional staff who support operations, technology, communication, and strategy, and the leaders helping to move this department forward. They don't always get the spotlight, but they are essential to every bit of the progress we've made. And it's important that we recognize that public safety today is delivering not just by sworn officers, but a team of professionals working together. To those who are here today, we thank you. Your work matters, and this city is better because of you. And we're doing this work alone. We're not doing this work alone. Public safety in Philadelphia is stronger because of partnerships. Our intergovernmental partners, including, to my right, Chief Public Safety Director Adam Gear, and members of his leadership team. I want to thank Director Gear for his collaboration and recognize the impact of Office of Public Safety. The Coalition to Save Lives, helping to support and shape our strategy. The Newbauer Family Foundation, whose investment is transformational, providing 45 members of this department the opportunity to pursue a master's degree at Penn at no cost. The Philadelphia Police Foundation, who has always supported the men and women of this department and our community-based organizations. This is not just support that is belief in this department and this city. And together, we are seeing results. Philadelphia experienced one of the most significant reductions in violence in history. Historic decline in homicides, an 80% reduction since 2021. A meaningful reduction in shootings, a 77% reduction since 2021. And a stronger clearance rate. In 2020, we had a clearance rate of 42. Today is at 138%. But this is not about numbers. It's about fewer families experiencing loss. It's about a neighborhood beginning to feel relief. And that is about trust starting to return. But progress alone is not enough. The question before is, how do we sustain it? How do we build on it? How do we ensure we never go backwards? And that's why over the past year, we built together the first 5-year strategic plan in the history of this department. We brought in more than 200 voices into that process, colleagues across the city government, officers from every rank, civilian staff, community members, advocates, business leaders, young people, and government partners. This was not symbolism. This was intentional. And at times it was challenging. But this honest dialogue, and there was tension, but that process produced something powerful, alignment. Because we found is that both officers and our communities want the same things. They want a department that is professional and well-trained. They want equipped with modern tools, supportive of this workforce, and generally connected to the people it serves. So we built a plan grounded in those priorities. And for the first time in 25 years, we updated our mission statement to include the word compassion. Let me say that again, compassion. Because how we police matter just as much as what we accomplish. This plan establishes our clear priorities: strengthening community trust, advancing technology and data-driven policing, investing in our people and our individual wellness, improving communications and transparency, and building a sustainable organization for the future. But what makes this plan different is not just what it says, but how it will be executed. We're building infrastructure to carry it forward, projects managers to drive implementation, cross-functional teams to break down silos, real-time tracking to track progress, and a commitment to align our budget directly to outcomes. This is where your partnership matters the most, because this budget is not separate from the plan. The budget is the plan in action. It supports the people doing the work, the tools they need, the partnership they extend our reach, and a system that ensures accountability. We're also being intentional in how we use our resources. We're asking officers to focus on what they uniquely are trained to do, bringing civilian professionals where specialized expertise is needed. Because transformation requires the right people in the right roles. That includes deploying quality of life across every neighborhood, investing in community-based strategies, and strengthening diversion and victim supports. And one of the clearest examples of this approach is how we're working with our young people. When I started the diversion program 12 years ago, approximately 1,600 youth were entering the juvenile justice system annually. Yet last year, that number dropped to 70. From 1,600 to 70, that is transformational, ladies and gentlemen. Fewer young people are entering the system. Fewer families are being disrupted. More opportunities to intervene early and change life trajectories. That kind of impact only happens through strong intergovernmental collaboration. And our partnership with the Department of Human Services has been central in making that possible and been absolutely phenomenal. I also want to recognize Dr. Goldstein and Drexel University for their continued partnership, bringing research, data, and evidence-based practices into this work and help us drive real results. And we are building on that success as we expand our citywide diversion. Our diversion citywide, youths have already declined by more than 20%. This happens when you invest in diversion, prevention, and partnership. That same approach extends to how we support victims and break cycles of violence. We're partnering with community-based organizations like Mothers in Charge, Every Murder is Real, Women Against Abuse, through our micro grant program, launching Summer Night Lights to create vibrant evenings for spaces for young people, and hiring victim advocates to support those in need. Council President, I think back to my time as captain of the 17th District when we talked about the impact of violence and trauma in our community. You've been a long champion of this work, and now we're taken to every community across our city. This is about building on the momentum, staying disciplined, staying aligned, staying focused on the people we serve and those who serve in the city every day. Philadelphia is moving in the right direction, and we invest together in people, in places, and systems. We turn visions into results, and that's how we meet the needs of our communities, and that's how we remain the finest police department in the nation. I thank you for the opportunity, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your testimony, and as always, it's great seeing you doing the work that you're doing when it comes to keeping our city safe. And so I just want to start off by acknowledging all the hard work that you and your team have been doing, and want to ask for members of City Council, could we give Philadelphia Finest a real big round of applause and support if we can. the reason why I wanted to start off setting that tone is because we're all public servants, but the difference between our role and your role is that it's not guaranteed that any of you will come home from a tour of duty on any given day, and I take that very, very serious. And so we just want to thank you for your hard work. We commend you for the work that you are doing. I wanted to also take a moment to specifically acknowledge First Deputy Commissioner John Stanford, Deputy Commissioner, Chief of Staff from Legal Affairs, Francis Healy, Michael Cram, Deputy Commissioner for Patrol Operations, Frank Venor, Deputy Commissioner of Investigations, James J. Kelly III, Deputy Commissioner for Special Operations, Christian Dow Campbell, Deputy Commissioner for Organizational Services, Joe Dales, Deputy Commissioner of Office of Professional Responsibility, who also served in the 17th Police District. Got some fans out here. Pedro Rosario, Deputy Commissioner of the Kensington Initiative, Deputy Commissioner for Community Partnerships, Maisha Massey, Mike Garvey, Executive Director of Office of Forensic Science, gentleman who hails from South Philadelphia, my district, Executive Director of Strategic Planning, which is Dave Zager. And I only mention these individuals because these individuals who I may interact with in some capacity. And I just want to acknowledge you, your leadership team, and all your supporting staff as well for your hard work. And listen, City Council could be rough at sometimes. The public could be rough at sometimes. But the reality is, here's the reality. We are at a 60-year historical low when it comes to homicides and shootings here in the city of Philadelphia, and that has to be acknowledged. The reality is, when we talk about results, the work that you are doing is based upon the numbers, and the numbers do not lie. And so I just want to start off by asking you, Commissioner, what do you believe has been the best practices, right, and strategies implemented that you believe that has gotten us to this point?
Yeah, so I thank you for it. First, I thank you for the acknowledgement to the team because that means a lot. I don't know how much we stand here and sit here. We do appreciate that. I think it's a combination of activity. Obviously, we can go back to COVID, during the period of COVID, where we can see what happens when schools are closed. As Chief of School said, I could see the impact it had on young people, and we could see that. And so we recognize the importance of folks being engaged with individuals in this space. I think a lot of credit goes to, I've sat, and I've been very honest, I've sat through, I've been in my 40th year going, into this public safety space, and I remember sitting by myself when crime went down. There was a whole bunch of people standing behind me. When crime went up, there was nobody standing behind me, right? And so that was this kind of thing that was going on. But when the mayor really talked about prevention, intervention, enforcement, and for the first time in my career where we are aligned, like when I sit here to my right, this is not some performance. Like me and Adam are friends. Like we respect each other. His team is working with my team. All of the teams, Carlton, everybody's working, want us to see it succeed. And so I think when you get that combination of things happening, you get that surge of activity. And so I'll start with recognizing, you hear me talk about technology. The technology, this is the first time in my career that I am not behind. Matter of fact, some of the technology is ahead of us. It's the first time. Like we had typewriters for a long time. The young cats called them property receipt machines. They didn't know what that was. Right? So the technology, I think today, and we've been around a long time, to solve a homicide, I have to sit there and say, he did it. Somebody had to see it. Oh no, not today. Today, between the cameras, the license plate readers, the phone technology, all of that technology is enabling us to quickly and be able to solve. That's why you're seeing that work. Commissioner Venor had created the shooting investigation group, treating every shooting as a homicide now. Last year we finished out the year 40+%. We'll be in that same space again this year. But now every time there's a shooting, the team goes out. I think that work is having impact. The work that we're doing along with our partners here, aligning our group violence intervention, how do we link our work with the team, with the safety team? Around lining that work together, making sure that they're focused. So when we're talking to Dion, I don't need them over here. Dion's back there somewhere. I need them here. I need them in the hot zones where they're most needed. But they have now, you remember when we did Focus Deterrence, it was just us, right? I mean, these programs, it was a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Today, the robust services they're able to go and when they knock on those doors is absolutely incredible. I believe that's changing trajectories and changing lives. So that work absolutely is critical. Us as being strategic, right? We know our crime strategy, being very focused, the layers of focus. We have 70% of our crime happens in 10 of our 20 districts. And in those districts, we can look at the data and tell us exactly where that's happening. The way we're able to distill data and break down data is absolutely incredible. It goes to the team behind me. Dr. Kikuchi is leading that work, and John Grasso are leading that analytical work. We're able today really dissect and really know where we're going. The question who, what, when, and where, and why is answered through data. And we can be laser focused in really being very strategic, working with our federal partners. I met with my federal partners when I walked in the door and I said, here's what we need to do. Here's what I need you to go. And all of them, the FBI, DEA, the marshals, who do a phenomenal job going after our most heightened fugitives, have all aligned their work. And so when we go to Weymouth Street with the FBI, and they go down and take one of the largest drug groups down there, and more to come, I'm talking that to everybody, more to come, it is important to that work. And then our community-based partners, the grants that are being put out, right? We have to give credit with all of that because I tell folks it's 134 square miles. Policing can't do that all by himself. So being very laser focused on who's getting those grants, what are they doing with them? Are they being effective in this work? And then at the end of the day, the people who get the most credit is the folks out here in the community. Mm-hmm. Like I tell people, that's not Miss Johnson on the block, who's been locking down the block for decades, oftentimes doesn't get enough credit. Mm-hmm. But I can take you into some of my most hardened neighborhoods, and this block don't have anything on it. They deserve a lot of credit as well because when they feel the surge of energy going forward, my mother lives in the middle of North Philadelphia, and her challenge is more challenging than my mother going into the bathtub because of the gunshots in the neighborhood. But today, those gunshots have gone down significantly. What does that do? It gives people to come up and peek, start to come up for air. So I think there's a lot of things happening that are driving that violence down. And our key thing is take the brake pad, look down, there's no brake pad. Got to keep our foot on the gas. We got to keep pushing because we can, right now we're at 31 homicides for the year. But if I take you back to 2021, there was 171 homicides this time in 2021. Today we're at 31. Right? In 2021, there was 564 shootings at this time in 2021. Today, we're at 137. We're showing people that we can. Oh, you're a poor city. Bull crap. Oh, we can't do that. Bull crap. We're showing people that we can turn this city around and people can believe. And the mayor talked about hope when we came in the door. Born and raised in the city. You know that. Love this city. And we're showing people we can get it done.
Thank you. I think somebody was clapping for you. Go ahead. Go ahead. You can give them some love. Go ahead and clap. That's what's up. When things ain't going right, we give you a hard time. So when they're going good, we should give y'all your flowers. Listen, I got to do a small housekeeping item. Mr. Gears, please present your testimony, then we'll open it up for members to ask both of you and your team questions as a whole. Is that okay?
Absolutely. Thank you,
All right,
Council
thank
President.
you very much.
Good morning,
Please
Council President.
State your name for the record and proceed, sir.
Yes, Adam Gear, Chief Public Safety Director. Good morning, Council President. Good morning, esteemed partners in City Council. Our partners, good morning. I want to start by thanking my leadership team, First Deputy Evangela Manos to my right, Marcia Dixon, my Chief Operating Officer, and my Deputy of Strategy, Joe Shu.
And I must say he's an awesome Director of Strategy and Legislation. By far one of the brightest in the city of Philadelphia.
Agreed. I also would like to thank my OPS family, my team. And I'm going to ask them to stand as well. If you're in the Office of Public Safety, please stand. They are the finest in the nation, comprising our Office of Public Safety. I'm so thankful for them and for all of the hard work that they do. Thank you. Philadelphia has made remarkable progress on public safety over the 2+ years of the Parker administration. To be clear, better numbers don't mean the work is done, but we have some clear signals that the work is working. I will start by describing our progress, then attempt to explain how and why we have made it this far, and finally, share a peek into the future. It is no secret by now that Philadelphia reached a 60 low homicides in 2025, just 4 years after an all-time high. Likewise, unintentional fatal overdoses dropped more than 40% over the last 2 years, reaching levels not seen since the rise of fentanyl a decade ago. These declines are moving with national trends, but Philadelphia's are steeper. Just as importantly, public perception is finally shifting in the right direction. A Pew poll last year showed a 12 percentage point increase to 56% in the number of Philadelphians who said they felt completely safe or pretty safe in their neighborhoods at night. Little by little, the word is getting out that something special is happening in Philadelphia. In the last month alone, OPS has hosted visits by officials from Dallas, Washington, and even Sweden. Next month, we are hosting Baltimore, Oakland, and Indianapolis. Stanford scholar Keith Humphreys, a top Obama administration advisor on drug policy, recently published an opinion piece on his recent visit to Kensington. In it, he notes our nuanced approach to open-air drug use, comparing it favorably to Portugal's renowned model. Community Justice, one of the nation's leading advocacy organizations on gun violence, publishes an annual violence prevention index. Using rigorous methodology, it ranks cities on the quality and robustness of their violence prevention infrastructure. In the latest report, Philadelphia ranked number 1 among all of the nation's largest cities. Unsurprisingly, we are often asked how we got here. The short answer is it's a team effort. I cannot understate enough the partnership that we have with the police department. It has been tremendous to me and my folks and to the citizens of Philadelphia. It is a true partnership, and I'm thankful for you and your team, Commissioner Bethel. They are outstanding. Starts at the top with our mayor, though, who, when she came in the door, set the tone and set up this brilliant infrastructure, simple yet so poignant of PIE, prevention, intervention, enforcement. And since that day, that's what we've been doing, marching side by side with our community partners and the like. So public safety must be collaborative, with the shared responsibility with the police partner, managing director's office, and literally anyone and everyone else who will work with us. Number 3, public safety must be pursued not just for the community, but with it. We have made it our mission to deliver on that vision. We lead or co-lead dozens of collaborative initiatives with at least 14 different government agencies. We have specialized community partnership teams for violence prevention and for Kensington. We convene advocates, community representatives, and service providers on victim services, reentry, criminal justice reform, and the like. And most importantly, we invest in community capacity. That includes more than $25 million for community grants. Community has insights and reach that government does not. We cannot do this without them. I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge Council's leadership in making Philadelphia a national leader in public safety. All of this is possible because of the genuine spirit of partnership between this mayor and this council. So what's next? In the 2 years since its creation, OPS has added dozens of staff and launched a dozen new major initiatives. Those initiatives include the Community Capacity Grants Program, Group Violence Intervention focused on juveniles, Incarcerated to Community Crisis Intervention Program, that's our CCIP for folks who are in an incarcerated state, Kensington Wellness Support Center, Neighborhood Wellness Court, Naloxone and Black, 2 neighborhood resource centers, Gateway to Success, the Homicide Victim Funeral Assistance Program, Public Safety Month, and more. Next week, we will launch the Philadelphia Peacekeepers Institute, which will be an institute that'll bring in some of our brightest community leaders and give them the latest and greatest tools and education around community violence intervention. In the coming year, we will move from nonstop building to a focus on refinement, integration, strategy, and sustainability. For example, we will start work on a strategic plan that will align with the police department's recently completed strategic plan. We will implement new data systems that work across all 9 of our divisions, and we will refine and systematize our workflow with partners like the UPenn Crime and Justice Policy Lab, and that's just the beginning. We are privileged to be entrusted with this important work by Mayor Parker and by Council. Our commitment to you is that we will honor that trust fully and completely. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I just want to take a moment to, most of your team I work with, Anthony Murphy, for over 20 years in the trenches addressing the issue of youth gun violence, as well as Shondell Ravel when he first came here, when we established the Office of Violence Prevention, and obviously Joshua Harris, who will always forever be a part of Team Johnson, your deputy for strategy and legislation, as well as Asada Thomas, who's executive director of reentry services. We have an event that's coming up where we've been going all throughout the 2nd Councilmanic District, helping people get their records expunged, as well as pardons, as well as a part of that process. And her first deputy, Patty Jones Thompson, and then also Derek Combs, the Office of Victim Advocate, an office that we created under the leadership of Joshua Harris to make sure that we had someone fighting for victims here in the city of Philadelphia, particularly around gun violence, because at that time on a state level, they were only focusing on the issue of domestic violence. And so through our special committee on gun violence, there was the advocacy around making sure that we're advocating and fighting for the victims of gun violence, as well as, I guess I won't call her assistant Heather, but your whole team, Adair, for just being on the front line and making sure that we are addressing victims of gun violence, which leads me into my next question, and I'm gonna open it up to my team twofold. One, Commissioner, when you were here doing our domestic violence investigation hearing around domestic violence, you talked about launching a weekly domestic violence case review with the Office of the District Attorney and the Office of the Victims Advocate. So could you give us a status update of this initiative? How many times have you all met? How many cases have been reviewed? And overall, the synergy between those 3 departments when it comes to addressing domestic violence here in the city of Philadelphia?
Yeah, so I appreciate that question. And first I'll begin, I want to carry forward, and I know your team and OPS has done a great job, but acknowledge the team under Ayanna Green, as you know, because of the issues we had between our homicide and families when we had someone killed in the community. We now have 10 victim advocates, as you know, in the Philadelphia Police Department. That is going extremely well under the Executive Director, Ayanna Green. We meet with every family that has lost a life in the city of Philadelphia. They meet with those families, they create a bridge, they work in collaboration with OPS and other community-based organizations. They do after every shooting. If anyone gets shot, the team follows up with them. After every fatality from a crash investigation incident where someone gets killed in a vehicle, they meet with those families, and now shortly we'll be moving to support those in the special victims, those from stranger rapes. We'll be providing support there as well. And so there's a great synergy and collaboration across that. So part of the work that you indicated, Commissioner Venor, Commissioner Haley met with the DA's office, Women Against Abuse, the CARES unit, community partnerships to create a collaboration moving forward. I don't have the specific how often but they meet bi-weekly to review intimate partner violence cases, focus on the coordination, accountability, and prevention. I just want to give you the magnitude. When we look at the number of domestic-related incidents, there's over 18,000 domestic-related incidents a year in the city of Philadelphia. And that's been an upward trend that we have seen. 75% of those are females. And so part of our work now is really being very deliberate. I don't know if Frank has Commissioner Venor has the exact number of times we're meeting, but it is going extremely well. I don't know, Frank, you wanted to add something to that? Yes, the
Yeah,
meeting.
Frank, we would
I'm
like
sorry.
for you to add something to that.
He said he meeting every week, that he's not bi-weekly, every week? Every week they're meeting.
Every week.
Yes, every week, which is a great place to be. But one of the things that we're also doing under Executive Director Ayanna Green, we recognize that we have to do more. And so in the domestic space, we're centralizing that now. So we went through a process very shortly where we're bringing in police officers as victim advocates into a centralized space where we laser focus on domestics, robberies, those types of offenses, making sure that we have synergy and be able to effectively address those issues. I think I shared with you, we were able to get a grant from Peregrine. It's a grant that will, one of the things we learned from the Kata Scott and our conversation as well, her tragic loss was the linking of information. So we do have a model. We expect that to have in place by mid-year. Well, so we'll bring everything together into one space. They're actually going to create a dashboard for us for around the domestic abuse. So if Kevin's creating domestic situations nowhere in the city, we'll be able to bring that information at the click of a button. The investigator will know what is in front of him or her. What is that person? Yes, sir.
Quick question, is this dashboard you're referring to based upon, you testified that you will be partnering with Women's Law Project and Women Against Abuse to implement a standardized tool to assess domestic violence and imminent danger. Is that the same tool?
No, so that's a system, that's a software that I'm talking about. What I talked about to you though is the lethality tool, is the danger assessment for law enforcement. One of the things we recognize, we have a form that was 2 pages long, but what it was not, originally it was born out of a collaboration with the University of Penn to be able to go through a process to determine if that victim is at risk. One of the things that Director Ayanna was able to determine and look across is a lethality tool that's being used by law enforcement, which we can use, that an officer asks 11 questions. It has been, it's been going through the vetting process and evidence-based product where the officer is going to ask 11 questions that will give them some indication that that person may be at a heightened risk. And so we think that's a great model for us. Once that lethality tool is determined, then we'll be able to share that information both with our response as from the victim advocacy space, but also working with the district attorney's office and others, and part of the work that Frank is doing to be able to elevate. How do you take something, we have to find something that elevates us out of the 18,000.
What's the time frame?
So we're moving very quickly.
Implementation.
On my desk, I have the approval, the funding. I'm be able to identify some funding to bring in the group. We have training to do, but I anticipate Ayanna by, I think she's here. She's not. Ayanna, what date do we have? Late July.
Late July?
That we'll have
Okay.
that in place.
Awesome. Tell me about partnering with Women's Law Project and Women Against Abuse to implement a standardized tool to assess domestic violence and imminent danger. That's something totally separate?
No, that's all the same thing. So
All
that's
the same?
we all work together. She brought in all those groups. It was important that we had those who were in that space help
Okay.
inform our process. So that's been all part of us getting together, President Johnson, to talk through, is this the best product? Is this the right tool for us to use? And being very understanding that we may have to change if not, but we believe this is
Okay.
far more effective than what we have been doing. We have to be
Awesome.
better in this space.
Two short other questions, I'll turn over to my members. As we prepare for, well, we're in 2026.
Yes, sir.
As we prepare for all the great events that are taking place here in the city of Philadelphia, and New York Times just said Philadelphia is the #1 destination to come to celebrate 2026, to visit our city. But we also at war globally, right? Just give me an idea of the protocol and what we're doing just to make sure the strategies, which we can express in a public safety and which we can express in a public setting, as relates to us just being safe during this particular time.
Yes, sir. So before I returned to the police department in 2024, the team had already started embarking on understanding that this was going to be one of the most significant years in our history. And so by the time I arrived, the team has been working with that process to develop a safety model, not just working with Dom and the Office of Emergency Management, working with special events. So this has become a model that's more than just us. It's a state, local, and federal process to be able to create the safe perimeter in the process that we did. It is going to tax us from a staffing perspective. something that we've never dealt with before, but we'll be bringing in additional assets to support us. The state police will be supporting us in this space. Many of our federal colleagues will be supporting us as we go about this work. The Congress, yes, sir.
Does this impact overtime for you
Yes,
and
sir.
your team?
So we were able to grant, from a USA grant, we were granted $30 million total, not all to us, the police department, to be able to bring those additional assets in. So there's a little over $3 million to provide support to the state police to enhance our work. There's money going to SEPTA to enhance our work. There's funds for us specifically for the FIFA events, and then for the Fan Fest events that are going to be in Lemon Hill. And so we were able to apply and receive that funding. It finally was approved most recently. That money also, we were also granted, and I know there may be some conversation around drones. We were able granted a $7 million funds for drone mitigation. And now folks say, well, what is that? Prior to that, the only person who could deal with taking a drone out of the air was the federal government. They recognized, because of the heightened alert for the FIFA events, that the FIFA cities will be granted the opportunity to have the drone mitigation process. Because of your investment 2 years ago, we were very, very prepared. We have 13 pilots. Jesse Darnell, Darnell's in here today. He leads our drone project, and he does a phenomenal
Got
job.
a white shirt on, too.
You like the white shirt on?
Yeah, I like the white shirt.
Well, someday he will have 4 stars or 3 stars or 2 stars because he's doing phenomenal work in that space. He's been leading because of the foundation built. He went down to Huntsville to be trained on their drone mitigation. Right now, he's the only one in the city of Philadelphia who can bring a drone down, absent the federal counterparts. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it's not you shooting it down. There is equipment that will either force the drone back to its location where it came from, the individual who launched it, forcing it down where we may make it go down. There's other options which I can't talk about here. But when you hear about the importance of that, if anyone's following the war, drones is becoming today someone could load up a drone, whether it be chemical agent or some other type of agent, and fly that into anything. And so it was important because of the FIFA to have those tools available to us to be able to do that product. So again, I'll keep emphasizing the things that you established here over 2 years ago to invest in that. The funding we got from Foundation helped us in that early entree into getting the FAA clearance, prepared us fully to be able to do both the technology that we need to be able to affect the FIFA, but the staffing, Chief Presbyorka and Chief Winton Singleton have been leading that work, and Commissioner Stanford as well, and those 3, as well as the team, to really prepare us, which was going to be an awesome time. We'll tell people you're going to come and enjoy yourself.
Enjoy ourselves.
You know what I mean? And we're going to work hard to make sure it's a safe time.
Okay, thank you. And I just wanted to put that out there for the record, because I know, because we live in the birthplace of America, right? And we have so many iconic institutions and landmarks, right? And you have folks saying, we want to target certain areas throughout the United States. And I think about our city, because we have most of the symbolic institutions that represent our country as a whole, and with so many people all around the world gathering in our city to enjoy themselves and to have a good time, at that we're just being proactive on the front end as opposed to reactive. And so
one of the things I would do, but part of our process too is taking care of our home base. The July 4th weekend is one of our most challenging, one of our more violent periods, unfortunately, historically. And so part of our work too is making sure that we have enough staff to take care of home, because after July 4th, folks are going home, right? Mm-hmm. And so we're very conscious too of making sure that, Commissioner Cramer, who runs patrol, and the team and others will be working to make sure that we cover all of it. And so I know as your listeners say, yes, we're going to be focused a lot of attention, but we're also going to continue to make sure we take care of our home base, our districts, our communities, because they also face some challenges in that time period, and that has been a historical issue for us.
Thank you. And one question for Director of Public Safety, Mr. Adam Gere. And Mr. Adam Gere, just so you know, we take pride in your position, because it started here in City Council under the leadership of Council President Darrell Clark and co-signed by Council Member Curtis Jones, Chair of Public Safety, and myself being Chair of the Special Committee on Gun Violence. So you make us proud in terms of the work that you are doing, as well as contributing to the 60-year historical law. I just want to know, how do you come up with the assessments and the metrics to show that the money that we're investing in the boots on the ground organization, something that's near and dear to me, is paying off, right? And this wants you to just state it for the records, because oftentimes folks will say, well, they're giving money to this group and to that group, but we know that there's an impact based upon us investing in the front end as opposed to back end. So give us an idea what your metrics look like and how you come up with the assessments. And then the last part is, tell us also how you're helping the organizations build their back office, right? How they go about doing their paperwork, the proper accounting, just to make sure, because oftentimes traditionally it's been that the people who have the best intentions and who are actually doing the work need the technical support to make sure that they're pretty much operating a business as a nonprofit, that the paperwork is tight, T's are crossed, I's are dotted, but at the end of the day, they have the heart and passion to be on the front line helping our community.
Council President, thank you so much for the question and for your support, frankly, and council's support of our $25 million investment in these community organizations. It is tremendous, it is unprecedented, and it is making a difference. To answer your question, one of the first things—
I want to say one part, because
Yes.
the public may not quite understand this. There was a time in the city of Philadelphia, particularly in city council, we would never give any money to boots on the ground organizations. The focus was on mass incarceration. And then when we began giving funding, it was like the max was like maybe 10,000. And we continued to advocate, and as a result of that advocacy, now a group can apply for $1 million plus, and that's unheard of. But if we could do support for big time developers that come to city council, then surely we can support the organizations called Boots on the Ground, doing the work day in out to save our community. So I just wanted to put that out there for the record, because people, they try to rewrite history and kind of forget, right, Jamie, in terms of how this process started, because we wasn't always here. It was just more focused on the stats commissioner was how many people you lock up this week, right? That's been the norm, right? And at the end of the day, it'd be a revolving door, because the former commissioner, Sylvester Johnson, said we'll never rest our way out of this situation. And the commissioner, I also thank you for bringing Dave Zago on to add that community component, right? To make sure the community is a part of your overall strategy to address public safety as a whole. So, Mr. Gear.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Council President. To answer your question, one of the first things I did when I came into this office, which I believe it is the right model to have an Office of Public Safety in a city that pulls together its prevention and intervention divisions and makes them work together and breaks down silos and strategizes and implements together. That is the right model, and it is the world first-class model. We brought in a deputy for data management and performance. We did a national search, Rafa Serrano. We stole him from Seattle's district attorney's office.
You can't say stole in this body.
We put him in the conversion program, it's okay.
Okay.
And so he relocated back to Philadelphia and is spearheading our data management. And what that means is, for example, for the first time, pulling together those 9 divisions' data into a centralized language that speaks the same language, essentially. It's called Azure. So before, our division of reentry might be collecting data on individuals and folks, calling contacts one thing, and then there might be another division, division of safe neighborhoods, calling it something else. Well, we're making that data unified so that we can track people, understand where people have been, whether they've had contacts with any of our divisions or departments, so that we can learn from that. That is the first time that is happening within the Office of Public Safety. We feel we're going to learn a tremendous amount from that, especially with the assistance of the police department and having access to their data. Again, tremendous partners. Together, we will know a lot more about the folks who are highest at risk, and then going down and be able to give them the services they need. That's one thing. The other thing is that we do in our grants program, and I liken it to this because I believe the work is saving lives. It is difficult, as the commissioner likes to say. Most of the crime for youths in terms of shooting or being shot happens about 2.5, 3 miles from the school, about 2.5 to 3 hours after school, something like that, about 70-something%. Commissioner will correct me if I'm wrong. If one of our grants programs is operating a program, a safe space where kids are coming in, and it is in the area where we need that grant program to be operating in, one of our top 10 districts, within 2 to 3 miles from the school, 2 to 3 hours after school, then we know we're giving those children safe harbor. We know that they're inside, and by the way, at the same time, they're getting access to cognitive behavioral therapy, whether they know it or not, peer mentorship, positive role models in their life. That's a difficult data point in terms of saving those lives to get to, frankly. However, that's the work that Rafa and his team are engaged with. They're just up and running. We're making that investment in our data so that we can move forward with clear eyes and go to where we actually need to go. That is data-driven. So we're doing that work. Second part of your question is the supports for our grants team. To be clear, our grants program is not about just giving money to organizations that deserve it and then set it and forget it and hope for the best. We have an amazing grants team headed by Marcia Dixon and Kenneth Johnson, and our absolutely dedicated, passionate grants team, as you know, Council President, who don't stop with the money out the door. We have technical assistance for every cohort. That is mandatory technical assistance. We have optional office hours then, where I walk by their office and the grantees are up on the screen and they're assisting them on their day-to-day, whether that's bookkeeping or any other issues they might have. During those TA hours, there's budgeting and financial management training, fundraising strategies, building partnerships, developing data systems, volunteer engagement, strategic planning, communication strategies is so critical, and of course, leaning into trauma-informed practices in self-care. We have a gala that we've now 2 years in a row run where we're bringing together all our grantees into the same room. Council President, I know you were there supporting us, and it's just an opportunity for them again to get training. There's a conference and they're getting training there during the day, but then they network and connect at night so that they know who they are, they can form these partnerships and become lasting institutions in our community.
Well, thank you very much. Great call on my members. I want to give a shout out to Heather Harris again. Heather over there where it works with Derek Holmes. I kind of brushed over, but I know she has a Derek back when it comes to all things victim advocacy. So thank you, Heather. I appreciate it. I want to give you a proper due. I'm going to start off with the Chair of Public Safety. He's first in the queue. Councilman Curtis Jones Jr., then you have Councilmember Jeffrey J. Young, then Councilman Dr. Anthony Phillips, then Majority Leader Catherine Gilmore Richardson.
Thank you, Mr. President. And thank you, Commissioner, for assembling this competent team. I remember some of the initiatives, drones flying around in this chamber when you introduced the concept to the city of Philadelphia as a law enforcement.
That was your hearing, wasn't it, sir?
Yeah,
you actually advocated for that concept to come to the city. That was you.
Yeah, and then more importantly, you moved it into practicality. It's gone from then to now, and we are on the cutting edge, and I'm so happy about that. I remember a time when the president will tell you that the district attorney, the police commissioner, the Defenders Association, the mayor couldn't sit in the same room, breathe in the same air, and we would sit around and Jamie Gutierrez was a part of that. We would sit around looking at them and wonder, like, what chance do we have as a city if the leadership does not get along enough to collaborate on criminal justice? I'm happy today that that is not the case. You don't got to like each other. Y'all ain't got to go, out for lunch all the time, but you have put in the work, and it's, as the president said, it's in the numbers. It's undeniable. So my questions are as follows. What do we do with all of those groundbreaking things, the cameras, the body-worn cameras, the municipal cameras, the license plate, that has probably paid a part. What do we do next to create that next level? And I have some suggestions. One is the crime lab that I remember us taking tours down there and watching. I've never seen that many guns other than in a gun show, sitting on the shelves, waiting, some of them, to be processed. Bullets, ballistics, rape kits, all of that, which I have to think impacts your closure rate ultimately and conviction rates for people that are apprehended. So my first question is, when can we see shovels in the ground for that?
So I know Mike Garvey is here, and I believe that we'll be working through this year, to work through the implementation process into 2027, and then we will have to do that transition. Right, the lab will be open, as both labs will be open as they transition. That'll be about a 6 to 7 month operation, with us being fully operational. I believe by the end of 2027, we will be ready to go. But I also will acknowledge, Mike Garvey, who leads our forensics, who's nationally recognized, has done a phenomenal job in getting us to this place where we're about to launch on. But even prior to that, when I talked about technology, I failed to recognize just the technology that Mike and his team have brought to it, Touch DNA, Rapid DNA. I mean, if you saw the work that his team did after the unfortunate aircraft fatalities we had up in the Northeast, his men and women worked and were able to identify all of those individuals and who were unfortunately killed and disqualify anyone else in a very short period of time, something that is just incredible. And so as we move into the new forensic center, it's not like Mike and his team have waited for us to get to the new facility and then launch into the new work. One thing Mike and his team have done, despite the conditions that they've been working under, is that they've stayed at the cutting edge of the technology. Now they're going to a new space and they'll really be able to branch out and really bring in move up the time period, move up the lab, hiring more additional people to accelerate the DNA process, accelerate that type of work, but really, really proud of the work that him and his team have done. And this body who's invested in the forensics, recognizing that the forensics is the key to us moving forward. The crime lab, I'll stop there because I know you have time.
Yeah, I got time constraints. So my second question that I want to get on the record is that I believe that significantly this year in particular, that the collaboration between SEPTA Police, Philadelphia Police, University Police has to be tighter than it's ever been. Working with cameras and other, I'll never forget the Wanamaker's incident where you were able to follow people on the subway. They got out and you knew what station they got out, and we apprehended people because of that kind of collaboration. I think that should be the norm and not the exception. And how can we hone in on that to take advantage of boots on the ground technology integrated so that we can better keep the public safe?
Yeah, so we're really proud to share with you. I mean, the Genetec system that we have to be able to capture cameras, we have over 3,000 city crime cameras, but there's over 9,000 additional cameras that we have access to in that process. Even the school district, as they move, they're bringing on their system, putting new cameras in their system. They will be able to incorporate their cameras, not inside, we won't be able to be looking inside the schools, but the Genetec system and be able to bring their cameras to bear. So we already collaborate with SEPTA. Commissioner Venor and the team work with them on a regular basis because of just their camera system. To your point, when we think back to the job which you described in Macy's, and the cameras catching him going down into the subway, coming out of the subway, that kind of
campus.
Yeah, but you're also seeing our strategic plan. But one of the things we recognize in Dave Zager when we're creating a strategic plan, recognize that as well. It's one thing to say we work together, but there's another thing to really codify. We have MOUs with all of our departments. Commissioner Healy will do that with Temple and Penn, et cetera, laying out these certain specific things, what we will do and the things that they won't do. But what we recognize now, to your point, is how can we even better make sure that we're working collaborative. We do a lot of work with Temple because of the CB Moore, and our kids like to meet up on there. Most recently, we deployed 5 officers and a supervisor down there to help them to integrate into that space so we can be better at it. But we're working through that process. I can tell you right now, we have phenomenal relationships with our law enforcement university partners, University of Penn, incredible. We're working now with a project with Jefferson Police Department as we're going to be down on the station in Market East. They're creating a substation that we will be a part of. Again, we're working with our Temple colleagues, and Drexel. One of our big dogs, is Mel Singleton is there in the Drexel, and so we work very effectively with them. But we did see that is even to do that even greater, that we put that in a strategic plan to make sure that we really, really are working collectively together.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Jeffrey J. Young, then Councilmember Dr. Anthony Phillips.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I want to first say thank you to the hardworking men and women of the Philadelphia Police Force, specifically in the 5th Council District and the 22nd, the 25th, 26th, and the 9th Districts. Just have a couple questions first question is about police-issued firearms, right? So a report by Ceasefire found that over 17,000 guns recovered from crimes by PA law enforcement in about 2023. 3/4 of those came from Pennsylvania gun dealers, and only about 2% of those guns came from essentially like high crime gun dealers, right? And so, but I do know the Philadelphia police are allowed to purchase their off-duty fire weapons from wherever they want. But I do think that we have a duty or an obligation to kind of curtail some of this gun violence when we know that only a small number of dealers are actually supplying the illegal guns here in our city. And I think we have to have a more of a supply side approach when it comes to this. And so my ask is, like, why are we allowing off-duty officers to purchase firearms from these high-risk dealers? And at the same time, the city of Philadelphia is suing Glock, and Glock is who we purchase our firearms from. So why are we purchasing firearms from a manufacturer who we are suing for causing havoc on our streets, and why are we allowing our off-duty officers to also purchase their private weapons from these high crime dealers?
I don't know if I'll answer it properly, but Councilman, the officers, when my officers purchase guns, they go in legally, they go in with ID, they go in with purpose. They document that purpose, but they have to they'll register if they're going to carry that weapon with us. And so there is a process to control that. I don't have a liberty to tell an officer where he or she cannot go to purchase a gun, but what I can know is that when my officers are purchasing a weapon, they're doing it in a legal manner. Many of the guns that you see on the street today are either straw purchasing or coming up the south, from down the south where they're coming into the city. So I don't make a correlation as to where would they go. They are permitted, just like any other individual, to have a weapon. Where would they go? I would expect that they would go to the very few licensed establishments that are still here in the city to purchase their weapon, as anyone else who has that authority to do. As it relates to the Glock, there's two separate things. I won't talk about the legislation that's in the city solicitors, but right now we have over 5,000 guns or Glock weapons in our system. We've had those since I was part of the testing group in 1988 when we would introduce the Glock. The Glock is one of the most formidable weapons to be able to use by law enforcement for a myriad of reasons, because of its safety, how it operates. One, two, because of its safety that it has on it and its finger trick and pull, it makes it a much more weapon for us. If we were even to think about trading out of those weapons, it would cost us millions and millions of dollars to do that. I think upwards of $5 million, and would take a substantial amount of time. There are a number, as you know, of lawsuits all over the place from everything that you can imagine. We didn't correlate those two together to say if that, Glock had a weapon that was easily used to be able to turn into, I forget the term, a switch, add a switch. I believe, my understanding from the team, that has been rectified. I know the lawsuit is still in place, but they've done some things to address that, to stop the switch and moving forward. So they have adapted. their model as the lawsuit continues. So they have been, as a result of that, made some adjustments to their weapon. So I don't know if I answered both of your questions, but that's where we are now.
Thank you. I have one more question, Mr. President. Overtime. Sorry.
Briefly.
Thank you. So overtime remains enormous, I think, in our budget. So how much of that overtime is being used to prop up basic patrol, special events, and reactive deployment rather than proactive neighborhood policing? And what does that mean for sustainable services in North Philadelphia in the 22nd, the 25th, 26th?
I'm sorry, say it again, Mr. Council.
Like, what is that? So the overtime cost is about $132 million, over $132 million. So how much of that is being used to prop up the basic patrols, right, special events, and reactive deployments rather than proactive neighborhood policing?
Yeah, so that, I mean, and so I appreciate the question. And I do want to follow up. I did get a note that I believe 80% of the crimes originally, guns are purchased in Pennsylvania, other parts of Pennsylvania as well. But the key into your question, I mean, part of what you know, I mean, we are down from our staffing positions quite substantially. We're down over 1,294 officers in our deficit as it relates to our staffing levels. As a result, we're fortunate that the Class 100 money has shifted into Class 1 for overtime, to be able to, establish a baseline of men and women to be able to respond to 911. We will get almost 2.4 million calls of service a year, almost 200-something thousand, 250,000 every month. And so to meet that challenge, we use that money to lay officers into those districts that are short on staffing. As we continue to build up our staffing through our recruitment process. We then will move into that funds to be able to pay for events. Oftentimes, even in the city council, there's events that are happening. You may not ask it, but we're covering to make sure that there's some safety and security around that. Protests. There's a plethora of protesters that we cannot account for. No Kings. And No Kings Day, I mean, we because of the issues around safety, that costs us a substantial amount of money because we have to deploy a large percent of people. And in that case, last year was relegated to just on the Parkway. Then we have multiple places. So we're constantly dealing with protests, Then we move into the quality of life issues, complaints from your constituencies around ATVs, car meetups, motorcycles. That money has been able to use for us to deploy multiple times across the city to address the ATV meetups and the like. And then in our community partnership work, having our men and women going out into the field to support that work, our juvenile assessment center. So we use all of those funds as effective as we can to address a myriad of issues, both crime issues, prevention issues, enforcement issues, to make sure, and I think that has helped. We're fortunate and we appreciate the funds because it gives us ability to be able to deal with those things we can see, but more importantly, incidents that pop up that we can't see.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I look forward to supporting the Summer Nightlife Series again in the 22nd Police District.
I appreciate it. And I appreciate your
You
support.
said nightlife?
Some Summer Nightlight Series. There's events that are happening at 2 rec centers in the 22nd Police District for about 5 or 6 week period. Every day of the week, there's activity going on at the rec center with the police and other community partners.
What time?
During the evening time. So there's
What's the evening time?
in the evenings. Yes.
Like what is 6 to 11?
We do about 8, 9
midnight
o'clock.
basketball,
I think
3
it goes
o'clock.
about 6 to 9. David Irizarry, who's a Stoney fellow who came to the department to help run that program on my juvenile work.
And you're in the 20. It's in the 22nd.
Yeah.
district?
I mean, we started there. There you go. There you go.
I mean, we got a new rec center in 26.
But one of the things I will share, when we look at data, the 19121 zip code is one of our most challenging zip codes for our young people. It is the highest number of kids getting arrested.
19121. Where's that located?
North Philadelphia.
Yeah, North Philadelphia. It is where we have a large number of juveniles, where we have a large number of kids who are getting arrested. Even if they're getting arrested in other parts of the city, their diversion is they're coming out of North Philadelphia. And so I think the strategy, we went into the zip code as a pilot. We hope the plan to go. Sue Slauson, the commissioner, Rex, has been really supportive. But we were feeding. I mean, the part of it was feeding young people at night. 7,000 plus kids getting fed. And it's a great program. We appreciate your support, Council.
Whatever we can do to be supportive of you,
Yes,
very
sir.
young, to support
It's all
your
about the young
district,
people,
let us
Mr.
know.
President. It's all about our young people.
And we were able to get a grant
Like
to
that.
support, we were able to get a grant from the PCD grant to support us. Neubauer Foundation helped us last year and is helping us again this year. It's been a great process, and we do look to expand it, but we were trying to get it set first.
Good job. I'm glad you said it was data-driven. I like how you talked about the data, making sure we're targeting. Chair recognizes Councilman Dr. Anthony Phillips, then Councilman Majority Catherine Gilmore Richardson, and if you can hear me, Councilman Jim Harity.
Thank you, Council President. I want to continue my questions in the core principle that I've been addressing in this budget season, and that is responsive government. A strong example of responsive government in action is Police Commissioner Kevin Bethel, who has embraced a community-based approach to policing. We have seen that with Captain McCollum's response to flash mobs in Findlay, where we've improved and strengthened that area. We've even seen it all the way to North Philadelphia, West Philadelphia. Even with Cecil B. Moore, we now have a proactive strategy when it comes to those situations. So we're seeing results across the city. Crime is trending downward, and that progress reflects your leadership. Today, that commitment is visible in the bike patrols, the foot patrols, and stronger connection between officers. And when I first started, we had leadership in the 35th District, now led by Deputy Commissioner Massey, who ensured that neighbors had direct lines of communication, and she continues to do that today. So I want to applaud the police department on their continued responsive government. Now I want to speak on the work of the Office of Public Safety. And I remember being introduced to this initiative by someone I admire, Council President Clark, and now nearly 3 years into the operation, we still do not have strong responsive government when it comes to the Office of Public Safety in terms of what its mission is supposed to be. The office distributes millions of dollars annually for violence prevention, community intervention, and direct services. Yet we do not have consistent communication on the outcomes, effectiveness, or equity in distribution. That is not responsive. That's not what responsive government looks like. Director Greer, I have said this before and will say it again, and I want to be a partner, but partnership requires transparency. We need to understand what is working, who is being funded, and what measurable impact is being achieved in our communities. Too often we see public recognition of certain organizations that are receiving violence prevention grants, while other community groups report being denied or underfunded, and these organizations are not, there's no public outcomes posted on websites or a booklet that shows their measurable impact in communities. So that raises real concerns for me. We're also, with the Office of Public Safety, I also want to highlight that I had a town watch in the Melrose Park section. I had a town watch launch that I wanted to do in the Melrose Park Garden section of our district alongside State Representative Anthony Bellman. Neighbors showed up, they were ready, but without consistent follow through. That momentum stalled. That cannot happen. So I have just 3 quick questions, and I hope that I can say them really quickly and get a good response from you. Can I get a commitment on the following? We had a 13-year-old, unfortunately, that passed away last week in West Oak Lane. You do a great job communicating and working with the mayor, which is excellent. However, council communication is off. I heard Pan showed up. I heard there was conversations with victims advocates, but we didn't even get a call from our office saying, hey, here are the resources that are happening in the district. Every time something happens with the district attorney's office, I get a call from G. Lamar Stewart, but I do not get a public-facing call from our Office of Public Safety, nor are you asking or demanding of your leadership team, Shondell, Adara, to call us to let us know what you're doing in our district. That's number one. Can I get a commitment that communication is going to be proactive? I shouldn't have to call you. You should be able to tell me, here's what we're doing, here's how we're working. Number 2, I get calls all the time about neighbors who are disappointed in the fact that we have all this money going out to these violence prevention organizations. We see that crime is going down. But to them, they're like, why are we giving money out to these organizations when they don't know who they are, right? Number 2, they don't see the impact, and they just feel like it's frivolous money being spent sometimes. It's not that it's not saying it's a bad thing, but they don't know what it's going to. I could have called these violence prevention organizations that you say are funded in our district, and I could have had them work with me when I went out there to that family and say, hey, let's work on this situation in our neighborhood to bring crime down around what happened when it came to this 13-year-old who passed away last week. We're not getting that interaction. Can I get a commitment from you that we're going to get more of a measurable impact that's going to be published online, showing the impact of all of these organizations, one by one, detailed? Because otherwise it could be looked at as frivolous spending. And the last question is, can we also get a commitment to a proactive town hall? You are raising Town Watch. You are raising Town Watch funding by $55,000. I have yet to see this Town Watch organization come into our district and say, here are the entities and neighborhoods we're going to be working with to form a Town Watch. Why should I have to do the job of the Town Watch by saying, I need you to go in this area, that area, there? Be proactive. I shouldn't have to do your job. There's a lack of proactivity from this department, but when the mayor calls, I respect it. You respond to her, but you also are supposed to work with council. Your main mission was supposed to bring agencies together. Council, mayor, and all the agencies. You just do not just work with council, the mayor. You have to work directly, proactively with us. Being reactive is me calling and saying, I need you to do this, then you do it. No, I need you to do it without me calling you. And that's what I'm saying. Those are the 3 questions. Can I get a commitment to you today? Because I'm tired of saying it. I said it last year, I said the year before, but I've had it up to now. It has to happen. It's disrespectful to our neighborhoods, and we have to make sure that this happens going forward.
I just want to add one part, Dr. Phillips, before you respond. Anthony Murphy, he do reach out to me when there's a shooting in my district in South Philadelphia. So, but Mr. Gear, you can respond, sir, but I had to cover my guy, Anthony Murphy, because when it happens, same way y'all cover the Northwest folks when they come up here. So I got to cover Anthony, but in all seriousness, Mr. Adam, would you like to respond to Dr. Anthony Phillips, please?
Absolutely, and thank you for your questions here, Council Member. You know, my team, they have, as you know, an incredibly hard job, and I think that they're doing outstanding work in our community. A lot of it is by design, and I'll walk you through some of that and how it might appear that there's not responsiveness, but I do respectfully want to disagree about the responsiveness from my Office of Public Safety. I actually think that they are one of the most responsive agencies.
They are responding. No, I'm
government.
not saying they are responding, but your job is to coordinate with us. You are not asking them to contact council members to work with them in the work that they're doing. That's incredible. That's what I'm saying. You keep telling me this over and over again, that you're going to call me, you're going to call me. I should have got a call about all of the work that you were doing last week with the 13-year-old who unfortunately passed away in our district. Did I get a call from any of your departments? No. GVI is doing great work. Shondell's doing great work. Our Office of Victim Advocate, do I get a call from you all about that? No, I don't. Why do I have to call you to do that, Adam?
Councilmember, and I appreciate you acknowledging the hard work of my team. The reality of it is, well, we had extended an opportunity to sit down and meet, I know, before these council hearings in the spirit of continuing to engage and communicate. I don't believe that we were able to meet with you. Schedules might not have aligned, in which case I would have gladly gone through some of our efforts or addressed some of these concerns. And I'm hearing what you're saying. So I first want to acknowledge what you're saying. With respect to the contact with this individual, with the 13-year-old family, it is absolutely tragic. A lot of times by design, and folks, we on the victim services side never want to bombard a location, a family, a situation. We don't want to overwhelm them with resources because we hear this all the time, that they don't know who to go to, who's this, they're just overwhelmed. They've lost a loved one. We had our rapid response unit, which is a protocol that we have within the Office of Public Safety. We work with our community partners and with our agencies that was activated for that particular case. And I don't want to get too much into the case because it is sad. They are still grieving. I spoke to the family yesterday. It is still very much a very difficult situation in terms of where we're at timing-wise. However, our rapid response unit engaged, bring in our community partners, bring in our teams, Everything was activated, and then we reached out to see whether there should be appropriate further contact. We made the determination no. At this point, there was one of our external partners, Northwestern Victim Services, who was in the lead for this particular case, so we backed off to not overwhelm. For what it's worth, Councilmember, and I know that we've texted about specific instances. I know for a fact that I've called you about prior instances. My sincere apologies if you feel slighted, or in this particular case, if I didn't reach out and you felt a certain way about that. My sincere apologies. You do have my cell phone number.
That's the point.
No.
That's the point. This is the point I make to
Mr.
Council
Garrett,
President. I got to say
let
this.
him respond.
I
Go
got
ahead,
to
sir.
say this because this is the point that I'm making to every resident in the city of Philadelphia. I feel like oftentimes I have to spend most of my time as a council member helping other people do their job. I am not, just because I didn't call you, right? That's not my job to call you and ask for you to do your job. You were charged to coordinate council, mayor, all of the agencies. So when something happens, you've only called me one time about a major incident in our district. One time. And so I have not heard from anyone else. If you're coordinating everyone, right, I shouldn't have to say, Adam, hey, are you organizing in the area? Can you do something? You should proactively call me and say, I'm going to have Shondell call you. I'm going to have Anthony Murphy. I'm going to have Adara call. Your team should be freely letting us know whenever they're doing stuff in our area. So because I was out there in the neighborhood talking, and I'm looking up, I see Pan out there. I didn't even know Pan was even coming today, right? I could have actively told our neighbors that Pan is there. Adara is there. I can't even communicate well to our neighbors because I don't know what the state of Philadelphia is doing. And we put you in charge to coordinate your team, and you're not proactively calling.
Councilmember, I understand. Suffice to say this, and I hear the point that you're making. Our teams were on the ground. What I want the citizens of Philadelphia to know is that our teams were on the ground. PAN, when you hear PAN, those are our teams. That's a part of the rapid response unit. They were on the ground. We had made the determination through our other government partners, which we were all coordinating through the Office of Public Safety, the mayor's community engagement team, spoke to the principal. We assessed the situation for further outreach.
No one's saying that you're not doing the work. You're not working with us, with me particularly. I don't know if you're working with other members. I would go to say that I'm not sure what's going on, but I'm not sure if you're across the board, every time there's an incident in the city, if you're reaching out to us on your own. I'm asking, can I get that commitment
The short
from here
answer
on
is
out?
yes, and there were...
You reached out to me?
No,
How many times?
No. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the short answer is that yes, I feel like I communicate with council on a very regular basis. And again, my apologies obviously this particular case, I did not call you.
No, it's this case and other cases. You're funding organizations in our district, and I don't even know, I have a relationship with the organizations that you're
I would
funding.
like to do this, right? Because y'all will go back and forth
Sorry, I mean, like,
for the
no,
rest
he
of the
does this all the
afternoon.
time, Council
One
President.
second, sir. And he's very, very passionate about his issue. Are you going to respond in regards to, he's saying you and your team should be reaching out to him regarding communicating with him and members of council regarding anything that's happening in our districts. He's also saying he shouldn't have to reach out.
Yes, sir.
You guys should be reaching out back to him regarding everything that's taking place in his district, as well as other members of council. Is that clarity, sir?
Yeah. One last thing. The commitment to being transparent about the dollars that are going to these violence prevention organizations.
Is there a
The impact
commitment to
report.
be transparent, an impact report about the funding that's going to these violence prevention organizations?
Yes, sir. Yes, absolutely.
Let me do this too, because he has a right to address this in a public setting, so it's on the record. But could you two also, as men, follow up after and have a frank conversation about
We have met
the issue?
4 times, probably
Y'all
3
met
or 4
4
times.
times?
And nothing comes from these meetings privately. I'm at a point now, this is why I'm at this point. I can't take it no more. Every year I've addressed them on this. Now it's like, are you going to do it? I keep approving this budget, and like, you're playing with me. This is not okay. I come here to serve people, and all I ask is that we serve people well. It's unacceptable that I have to call you Your job is to call me, not because of it's nothing about my title or who I am. That is the position. You're supposed to coordinate every office, no matter how hard it is. If I have to call you all the time, that means you're not doing what your job description says you're supposed to be doing. Thank you, Council President.
Dr. Phillips, anything else you want to wrap up with, sir? Okay. Mr. Gear, would you like to respond?
Sure, I'll respond to the data portion of that. Again, Councilmember, we've had several external audits of our grants program that are public. We have we have our grants, all of our grantees, whether it's TSIG, CEG, whatever, that is listed in public information on our website. We are launching with Philly Stat 360 a more professional and in-depth look at those grantees, and we're going to be adding to that over the time, but it has published their grantee amounts, it has where they operate, it has points of contact, all of that's thanks to Philly Stat 360 support. We will continue, as I said at the beginning of my testimony, with our data team to look at the data, to continue to, when we're going through our technical assistance, when we're looking through their receipts and paperwork, be able to publish as much as we can. We will be very transparent in that work.
Could you provide that information to members of the chair to provide the members of council just for the record?
Sure.
The chair recognizes Majority Leader Catherine Gilmore Richardson, Councilman Jim Harity, and Councilman Jamie Gautier.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Council President. And I just wanted to reiterate, I think I heard communication, collaboration, and partnership. And in the spirit of Council President, I too respectfully request on behalf of Councilmember Phillips, my neighbor in council, that you all have a secondary follow-up so that you're able to meet, as my former mentor, my former boss and mentor always says, eyeball to eyeball. You all need to sit down one-on-one, eyeball to eyeball, to iron out any wrinkles, okay? So I just wanted to put that on the record. But thank you all so much for being here. I have to start with my thank yous, Council President. You stole my thunder at the beginning, but I will and must get these thank yous on the record. So please bear with me. To Commissioner Bethel, thank you very much for your leadership, your extraordinary leadership. Everyone talks about you from across the country, every city that I visit, other elected officials, so thank you for your leadership. To First Deputy Stanford, who I still have saved as Captain Stanford in my phone, thank you so much for all of your leadership. To DC Healy, I see you there. Deputy Commissioner Dales, thank you so much, Deputy Commissioner Joe Dales. Krista Dahl Campbell, Maisha Massey, Venor, Kelly, Rosario, Cram. I have to shout out Inspector Goodson. Thank you so much, Inspector Goodson. All of our PPD captains, there are too many to name, who are helpful to my team for all of our constituent matters. A point of personal privilege, and must recognize our 19th District captains and Captain Newble, and our new captain, Captain Metellus, and also in the 22nd, Captain Sproul, and in the 14th, the entire 14th PPD. Thank you for the work that you do with the Cirque Center and Council Member Cindy Bass's district. They are phenomenal, the work they do with the Cirque Center with our young people. And finally, have to recognize Central Detectives, and you all know why. I don't have to say thank you. Thank you, thank you for what you did for me personally when it mattered most. Thank you to the Dignitary Protection Unit and to our police chaplains, and I have to recognize one in my soror, Archbishop Mary Floyd Palmer, who is here with us this afternoon. And then to Public Safety and Adam Gear, and to Joshu Harris, to Shondell Ravel, Anthony Murphy, Adara Combs, Marnie, and to your entire team. Thank you very much for the work that you all do. Because we have such an open, collaborative relationship, you know that typically we work on these matters throughout the year. but I wanted to get some of this on the record because we're trying to traverse through the hearing we just had with licenses and inspections, as well as the continued nuisance business work that we're doing. In addition to the continued curfew work that we're doing, we know this year will be 5 years of our CERC centers, and our Commissioner Ali told us in our DHS hearing that as of February of 2026, the CERCs have served 3,228 youth and have received over 79,000 visits from our young people in the city. So I just have to get all of these questions on the record on those two issues. So relative to nuisance businesses, can you all discuss the amount of chronic nuisance violation citations that have been issued by PPD, broken down by fiscal year? If you could focus on just 26 and 25. And then the same thing for the critical nuisance violation citations that PPD has issued. And then finally, on nuisance businesses, how many nuisance abatement plans have been entered into for FY 26 and 25? And how many businesses are currently not in compliance with their abatement plans? That's just on nuisance business. And then for curfew, I wanted to know how many minor curfew violations there were in FY 25 and how many so far for FY 26. I wanted to put that on the record because I know now that the weather's warming up, we're starting to see more young people out on the street past curfew, and we know the policy that we have is to try to reunite them with family, but we do want to try to get them to the CERC Center so we can get them connected to resources within their community. So I wanted to talk about the plan for curfew for this summer and trying to get more of the young people to the CERCs. And then finally, the Police Science and Explorers. You know, the school district recently launched the Police Science CTE program that we're really excited about, and it's via MASBOM, and I wanted to know how PPD is supporting the new Police Science CTE program, and how many current participants are in the Police Explorers program.
It's like a compound on top of a compound to the compound.
I was trying to get it all in before
I know,
the bell rung.
I know. Let me first work a little bit backwards. I mean, as far as curfews last year, we had 354 curfews last year. For the 2025, we have 63 so far this year. As you're aware, we started a 3-tier diversion program in which curfews are a part of that as well. I'm sure Commissioner Ali indicated that our diversions are going, in some of those cases, are going to the part of their ecosystem of the providers that they provide as far as our diversion work. As I go down, commercial corridor nuisance business sweeps, 90-4-4400, we had 64 total sweeps, 162 business checks, 552 of those sweeps, particularly focusing on the auto body shops and commercial areas, 10 stops, which led to ceasing. In 2025, there was 160 investigations. I'll get this on paper to you.
Yes.
80 were mailed intent to seize for chronic critical, and of that 2025, 33 received cease operations. We have a list of those pending abatements, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 abatements that are pending now. Moving into, we did short dumping, 180 investigations, 7 arrests, 8 warrants, and judgments in quite some amount of money. I don't know if I covered all of what you asked. Was there another area that you were asking me about, Councilwoman?
Yes, just the chronic nuisance violation citations versus the critical versus the nuisance abatement plans. And
Yeah,
I don't mind
know.
taking the data for it if it's available.
Right now, they're sharing with me 2025, there's 25 issues, 12 are pending. 4 were seized so far this year, with 7 pending. 195 letters were issued citywide.
Okay, and we'll follow up with the nuisance business task force. We work with DC Healy and the team.
Yes, ma'am.
Very closely, but I wanted to get that on the record so folks could see and hear how things are working thus far, particularly for this fiscal year. after, 94400 and some of the additional work we've done on the abatement plans. And so I wanted to get that on the record. And I heard the numbers as well for the curfew violations. And then are you all working with the police science CTE program?
Yes, Chief Gillespie, who oversees our academy, has worked with the Mastbaum program as that work gets underway. I know the New Barrow Foundation was also supporting us as we get underway. The greatest challenge, is, as you know, Councilwoman, is facing is we have an 18-year-old and that bridge to 20.
You're right.
And so part of, so we have some concurrent things going on. Additionally, as it relates to creating a cadet program, this body afforded us some money, I think it was over a year ago, but we had to be, instead of pouring it into what we did not have, really being intentional about creating the structure. And so Commissioner Dahl and Commissioner Massey have been working with our city OHR. They're working through that process now of creating that cadet position so we can bring young people in with funding to create that bridge. We also have a number of civilian positions that we have, that we believe at 18 years old, those young people can fill those positions as well. So we have a lot of things to work through because of the civil service testing. They got to be on a list, and so oftentimes, but they're not, right? And so we have some things, but we are working in that direction, but not just relying. We need multiple sources to be able to bring young people. Mike Garvey has been working with the city team at the, as part of the community college program to bridge individuals into our program. That is some of the work that we're working through now, particularly as the new forensic center comes underway. So there's a lot of different avenues that we have to work on to be able to bring young people, particularly that bridge, because if we don't have a job for them at 18 years old, it's hard for them to stay until they get to 20. And so the team has been working hard to be able to continue that bridge.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much, Commissioner. I only have one additional question that I will submit for a written response.
Majority Leader, go ahead, ask your question.
Thank you very much, Council President. But I just wanted to say thank you. I'm excited about the police science CTE program. It's something that we worked with Mastbaum on for over 4 years. So I'm excited to see the program up and running and the additional work that you all are doing on the back end to create that cadet position so that we can keep those young people in the pipeline from 18 to 21 before they can apply for the police academy. So that's really exciting. Finally, and I've been asking everyone this, do you all have any Class 100 underspend? And did you have underspend for FY 24 or 25? And if you have any anticipated underspend for 26?
As far as positions, Class 100 positions?
Just for Class 100 in general.
Yes, we have positions, well, first and foremost, the police officers, 1,200 of those, and then from our civilian workforce. So we do have positions within the Class 100 that they're under.
Okay, do you know what the percentage of the allowance is?
I do not.
Okay, we can get that on the back end.
Okay.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
thank you. Thank you very much, Commissioner and team. And I hope I said CRAM, because I had CRAM listed here. Did I say CRAM? Okay, I wanted to make sure, because I wrote it to the right. But thank you very much, Council President. Thank you to the entire PPD team. We appreciate you all.
Majority Leader, you good? Chairman is Councilmember Jim Harity, and Majority Deputy Whip Councilmember Cindy Bath, and Councilmember Dr. Nina Med.
Thank you, Council President.
Oh, I got you. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Council President. Like everybody else, start off with all the thank yous. I always have to thank our first responders. I come from a family of first responders. You guys know that. My grandfather was a firefighter. My father was a police officer. They were always opposite. And just to throw a little bit more in, my mother was a crossing guard. So utmost respect for you and what you do. And as like my colleague, Catherine Gilmore Richardson said, I'm happy to hear that we're making progress with the cadet program. That was one of the things I fought for when I first got here, as well as the more drones. Going to ask some quick questions, that way I can just get them on the book because of time, right? So, and also, Adam Gear, Public Safety, you guys know. I have to give a definite shout out to my wife Marnie and her work husband Natalie. If he's here, he's around somewhere, I'm sure.
That boy's smart.
Yeah. He sees her more than I do nowadays, but that's okay. She's doing the work. Like I said, I want to throw a quick couple questions out there. You can answer if you get the time. If not, then you just get back to me on what you can answer. So for police first, how has the PD progressed in reducing drug-related activities, including getting drug dealers off the streets of Kensington, specifically the 24th and 25th Police District? Shout out to the 24th and 25th. They're the people I torture regularly, and our Deputy Commissioner, who is doing a fantastic job. What specific strategies or initiatives have proven effective in this effort? How will you deploy quality of life assurance officers to every district be integrated into the initiative already in place? How will it integrate with the initiatives that are already in place? And then for public safety, for my neighbors, I live on a little street in Kensington, and I'm actually live directly around the corner from Weymouth Street. I know as a city official that a lot of the services we are giving over there are services that are provided to most citizens. We may just be expediting over there because we're trying to keep the block. But there's a lot of rumors, small neighborhoods, people sit on the stoop. I sit out on my stoop every day when I get out of work and talk to my neighbors, and they are banging me because there's all this thing about extras that the Weymouth Street is getting that aren't being done in other places, paying of bills, clearing up of taxes, just things like that, that the normal everyday citizen in my neighborhood is saying, well, we get it, we want to keep them out of there too, but I live on Willard Street, which has Hilton and Madison right behind it, and they're two of the bigger fentanyl corners in the city. Our guys over there in blue do a fantastic job. Just want you to just explain for my neighbors a little bit on what the things are, maybe how we're just trying to expedite so we can keep that, and that what services are also available to them. And just, a little bit of where the money's coming from to give all those services. Because the rumors are like there's appliances being bought, there's this being done, there's, so just trying to get it all straight. Thank you.
So I'll begin just to give you the full context. I mean, last year, working with all of our federal partners and state partners, the police department recovered almost $186 million worth of drugs in the city of Philadelphia. 1,472 dealers were arrested. 1,235 of those were buyers. Total arrest was 2,700. 773 were search warrants. So by context, when you take that number, when we look at the Kensington grid itself, 453 buyers were arrested, dealers were arrested, 584 buyers for a total of 1,037, and 5 million of the drugs were from that area in the Kensington proper. And so, our process, again, and Commissioner Stanford, I'll let him jump in. We started down this process of having a 5-phase approach. We've been in that space of our approach of really digging into our strategy. As you know, it was challenging, and from the Kensington caucuses here, you knew that well before I arrived, the challenge that we're having in Kensington as it relates to addressing. And I know my colleague will talk about how we're incorporating the wellness center and the court mediation process, warrant mediation process is having a significant impact. We continue to grow in that space. What we're working with now is to expand that work now. And recently the team introduced a model to me, some new activity. I talked to Councilman Lozada around us increasing our narcotics enforcement in there. I have a plan on my desk. There's still some tweaking that needs to be done because we want to make sure we get it right. And so as Commissioner Rosario has led that work, part of that is resetting amongst our men and women. We've been down there for 2 years now. And so part of that journey now is to continue to expand. We're seeing reductions, that. We're seeing things, but there's certain things that we still have to be highly effective in. And complacency cannot be, or the status quo cannot be that, right? We need to get to that end zone. And so part of that journey too is with the team, and they can talk through about working through collaboratively with all of the community members down there. I mean, one of the things we have to build, and the team is building now, and they can talk through that, of getting down on the ground and having those meetings. I think they just had a recent meeting, getting the feedback that you're talking about more specifically and more granular about what is going on down in the Kensington area. There's been, there's a lot of work being done. We, as you know, even when we did our fire brigade, we had far fewer issues around the fires that we had in this past winter. We could see a reduction in that work. And so I think the part of the journey is to make sure that we're communicating. As part of that journey is making sure we're being nimble. And the mayor has been very focused on that work. And so I let the team, Commissioner Stanford may want to talk about some more granular things. If you want more detail, I can obviously bring up Commissioner Rosario to give you a more seeped of he's leading the efforts on the ground, doing a phenomenal job doing that. Or we can follow up in writing if you refer something more in writing.
And there's something in writing for time. I mean, the bottom line is I just wanted to get it out there also because I live there, right? No. And clearly you could see a difference, right? I'm just afraid with summer coming that we don't take our foot off the gas and we continue the community approach because I believe it's working. And seeing the officers walk through my neighborhood with 5 of them out there just hanging around, just walking. They're not bothering, they're not harassing people, talking to people when they can. I mean, it makes a difference. And you can't deny that the commissioner, we met with the commissioner and he showed us the numbers. I mean, I remember when I first got in here, the reason I ran is because we had 506 murders and 198 of them were within a 1 block radius of my house. And those numbers are not even, it's unbelievable the change.
Yeah, I think even when you councilmen talk about, I don't have to jinx myself because we had 0 shootings in Kensington.
Yeah.
I mean, absent, I think yesterday, right, was our first? This morning was our first shooting in that pocket this entire year. That is absolutely amazing, right? And so not only is it about the drug elements, it's about the crime fighting and the impact that deployment is having on there. Our goal too, as part of the plan, is to train those men and women on the ground. Commissioner Stanford, we were rotating them out. We're now keeping them stable in that space because they can get more, understanding. But now we're going to start to give them the tools, training them around narcotics, what to look for, what are the things that they should be doing in that space. We think that also is a part of our journey of making sure that they're better prepared. Because walking by a drug dealer is not good enough. And do not worry about the gas coming off. Well, first and foremost, the mayor would never accept it. And if Commissioner Rosario stood up and took his jacket off, he would see all of the strikes on his back because we're pushing and hitting and saying we will not stop. And I've made that commitment from the time I walked in the door. We will not stop until we get that community back.
Yeah,
right?
We're proud of our commissioner
and we're seeing the success, sure. But we will not let up until that community feels that vibrancy of that community and those folks feel, the dignity that they deserve.
Yeah, and as a neighbor, I can tell you it's worth it. We love our deputy commissioner. Mr. Gear, if you could just answer the Weymouth stuff, and then we can let my colleagues have at it.
Thank you, Councilmember, and thank you for your support of our efforts in Kensington. Weymouth Street, by way of background, there was a very large-scale intergovernmental enforcement of that organized crime syndicate, which was operating on Weymouth Street. Approximately 30 people were arrested. Really a tremendous effort, intergovernmental effort. One of the things we learned from the previous action on Weymouth Street and other large ones is the need to have a very targeted, robust response in the aftermath of a large-scale drug interdiction like that. And what I mean by that is really micro-focused, supporting that specific geographic area and the folks who were basically living in their homes in fear for years. What that looked like, and this is a pilot, by the way. So it's a drug market intervention pilot. This is something that we will stand up if there are other large-scale drug coordinated actions that happen like this, where they'll come in, they'll rip out the tree, they'll rip out some of the stem, and now we're coming in afterwards and we're making sure we're getting all of those little seeds and bulbs that might grow into something that we don't want, and then replenishing it with some good soil is essentially what we're doing. So we're on that back end, really being attentive to our residents and their needs in this specific location, which we hope will then translate beyond that. So it's important to note that it is a pilot. You should be seeing more activity in that area where folks are now going to be expanding that footprint to be able to let folks know about the services that we are offering. And we're bringing 90-something% of this is bringing the services to the door of the people who are there. So, hey, did you know that we have that vector control can come in here, for example, and help with rodent removal? Same thing with Tangled Title property. So this is all available citywide. Utility bill assistance and basic home repairs. We're making those connections for folks, meeting them where they're at. I should note that Be in Lehigh, which you also support our work at Be in Lehigh and standing that up. For walk-ins, you can have Benefili benefits navigation, that's Medicaid, SNAP, emergency food vouchers, civil legal aid. All the residents of Kensington and citywide really can know they can walk in there and do that. To answer your question around budgetary stuff, most of what I've described is really making those connections. So they're working within the operating budgets of, vector control, PDPH, et cetera. There was a small amount of discretionary funds that we had for underspend that we used in some cases for like minor car repairs, appliances when folks didn't have working appliances. A lot of that work was done to build trust. Again, with the folks in this area who'd been living in this tyrannical drug trade situation, building that trust. And we built that trust thanks to the leadership of Kurt August, and we'll continue to expand that and hoping that there's no footprint or foot in the door for any future drug work there.
I thank you for explaining some of that, but I would just say be cautious with framing it in the way you framed it here with those people were held captive, whatever, the whole neighborhood's held captive. I'm literally a half a block around the corner here, right? It's my neighbor, Hilton, Madison, Willard. So my neighbors are in bad shape too. That's all I'm saying. And I know that I'm glad to hear that you're going to be expanding it. Just what I'm getting at is the services that everybody can get that they're getting, we need to do like a door knocker or something with some phone numbers maybe, stuff like that, so that we can actually just get out there. Some of the stuff are specialized, like you just said, that are just trying to do a thing, but other stuff everybody's entitled to. So maybe just like the door knocker.
Can I do a point of information real quick? Do you partner with the Office of Neighborhood Engagement to
Right.
actually canvass Kensington regarding the information that is available for people?
So we have the Neighborhood Action Center there, Council, but you're absolutely correct. The door knockers they're going to be in print soon enough, and we're starting in that area, and it will have all of the resources. We have a similar one for gun violence, but that should be coming within the next, as soon as we can get them off the presses.
Yeah, because
So
we
who are
do
you
a help.
partnering with to get that information out? Is that your neighborhood education center or just?
We're going to rely on Anton Moore and his team, who we partner with, to help us canvass the neighborhood, but we're also going to rely on our Office of Public Safety folks and Mayor Key, our partners, to get those out.
Chair recognizes Councilman Jim Harity.
Yeah, that's fantastic. It's about information. A lot of times, especially the seniors in my neighborhood, some of them don't even have a computer, let alone being able to go online and look it up. You know what I mean? If one of their grandkids or something doesn't come over to see them, they may not have access. So them having a card that has numbers on it, you know what I mean? Our seniors, they like the old school. They want to be able to dial up and try to talk to somebody, even if it's sort of animated. You know what I'm saying? Even if they're getting prompted around. You know what I mean? Eventually, they're going to actually get to talk to somebody.
Thank you.
our older citizens. That's the kind of stuff that they need. And that's just getting the information out there. Like I said, we have all these great things. For example, I complained one time about nothing for the kids to do in my neighborhood, and the lady gave me a list of free stuff in the neighborhood. Like, yes, but my kids didn't know about it on my block. The kids around the corner didn't know about it. It's just getting it out there that we do have services, and there are stuff for our kids to do.
Absolutely.
And that's in every neighborhood, is
Yes.
what I'm saying. It's more of us as a city getting it out there, and maybe with Anton Moore now, that'll get done a little bit more often with the collaboration.
And Councilman,
Yes, sir.
one of the things we're doing is part of our strategic plan, we're using Zen City, a survey tool, and we have it pilot in districts, but we're going to be going citywide. So as we embark on our strategic plan, we'll be going into communities and surveying those communities, asking questions
Great.
about how they feel about safety, and hopefully in that process, in all the areas of the city, we'll be able to, one, to see if what we're doing is working, but two, be able to gather information real time. They're able to do it in a very finite way to be able to get that information. I do want to give a shout out when I talk about Weymouth. Don't want to exclude other governmental properties, but the Streets Department, Sanitation, LI were extremely helpful in us closing down, boarding up the block, and sealing them, which we appreciate in this process.
Thank you very much, sir. Member Baz, can you extend to me just a little bit of grace for the moment? In the queue is Councilman Jamie Gautier, then yourself, then Dr. Nina Mai. Just a little grace, is that okay? All right, thank you. Councilman Jamie Gautier.
Thank you, Council President. Good afternoon, Commissioner Bethel and Director Gear. I want to thank both you and your teams for everything that you've done to make our city safer under the leadership of Mayor Parker. I started council in 2020, and not long after I started, we were not only dealing with the pandemic, we were dealing with spikes in gun violence that we had never seen before as a city. And in West and Southwest Philadelphia in particular, it was miserable, and it was dark, and it was bloody. And sometimes it's even hard to think back on it. Obviously, as a council member, we don't have direct control over public safety outcomes, but when your community is suffering like that, it's very heavy, and you carry it with you every single day. And so I just want to thank you all. And obviously, coming out of the pandemic, crime has gone down everywhere, but the drops in Philadelphia have been much steeper. And so we have to give credit not only to just the pandemic ending, but to the efforts of you and your teams and the efforts of everyone in our communities who have dug in on this issue. So thank you, thank you, thank you. That being said, I do have some questions about how we keep our foot on the gas, especially with what's going on in my area of the city over the past week and a half or so. As soon as the weather warmed up here, we had 4 high-profile shootings in my district within a span of a few days. It's hard to watch us take so many steps forward and then fear that we're taking a step back at the same time. So can you share what plans you have to address the recent spate of violence in West Philadelphia? In particular, I'm speaking about the mass shooting at 60th and Market, and then the homicide there were several shootings around the 60th and Market area, and then there was a homicide in a corner store at 40th and Market. And as it relates to the store at 40th and Market, this is a nuisance business. It's been on our radar for years. It has currently 25 violations since 2022, and in 2023, a 21-year-old young man was shot multiple times in the face and in the chest and died at this same location. And so my question is, when we have multiple acts of violence and code deficiencies at the same business, how are we working across departments to bring serious enforcement and accountability so that these problems do not repeat themselves? We knew that this location was a problem for a while. The community spoke up on this location for a long time. And I know that LNI and PPD PD have expanded their partnerships in the nuisance business space recently. And so with a property like this, where we saw a murder in 23, what can we do so that we don't run into the result we saw last week, which was another murder at the same establishment? So if you could just speak on that. And again, thank you for all of your wonderful efforts, but how do we keep our foot on the gas so that we don't see these rising levels of violence continue?
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you for the question. I mean, first and foremost, as I share with you, this is the time, right? April, from this point on, April into the end of the fall is our most challenging period in the department as it relates to violence, particularly when it starts to warm up.
Yeah.
However, that being said, despite all that, we're still seeing significant reductions and reductions since years past. A part of our work is, when we have upticks in violence, no matter where they are, at 8:15 every morning, my team is on a call with all the commanders across the city. It is expected during that period at 8:15 every morning that they are going through what is the issues around the violence, what are those things that we can address immediately, and then what are those long-term things that we need to do to make sure proactively it doesn't continue. The first stop is to move more assets into that location, and you saw that the inspector will move additional personnel into that. We then will move into our second phase. We have a shooting review team that will go through all of our shootings, in particular these shootings, to make sure that we are looking at all of the analytics. I mean, whether this is the conversation, I won't get into what gangs were involved, that we believe activity was involved in these, but we do believe this was rooted in some type of potential gang activity. That's where you get the unfortunate innocent bystander killed on Market Street, or the bar job across the street where an individual walks up in a car, gets out, and shoots. Same thing what happens on Market Street. Unfortunately, as you know, we're through the work, and again through technology and good police work, our detectives have identified 2 individuals who are now wanted for the shooting on Market Street. We did serve search warrants a couple of days ago. The marshals now have those search warrants, and we're very much looking for the 2 individuals. There was a total of 4 involved, but we've definitely identified 2 of those. We've recovered the vehicle. We have good leads on the job on 60th Street, across from the bar. As it relates to the Market Street and the store, our expectation is that we follow up to determine whether we're very careful, right? Because as you know, many of our bars and many of our stores are a place where people are waiting for someone to come, or and not time. So we're very careful not to indict a business owner or a store owner as the reason why, particularly in a case where someone is seeking out someone and they're just looking for the opportune spot to do harm to them, in this case shoot, and unfortunately in this case killing. So I don't have the information on letter. My team is telling me a letter has been issued on that property, and we're waiting on that status with L&I. So we are following up in that regard, but that should be normal operating procedure. Commissioner Massey, part of what we're building out our community partnership, and she's done a really good job, is really being very intentional about what you described. But also being careful that, unfortunately, some of our own business owners have nothing to do with the crime, but unfortunately, individuals will see their space as a place to engage in that crime.
That may be true, but this store does have dozens of violations.
No, we will definitely look through that. I don't know if we had all of that, but we will definitely look through the additional violations that you outlined and make sure we're addressing that appropriately.
Do you have anything to add?
I will add something to the nuisance business thing, if I may, Councilmember. There are 2 things that we're doing internally one is the working group that we have for our nuisance folks, and it is an intergovernmental approach. And the reason why I hesitate is there is some work happening around nuisance properties that we're just not prepared to talk about publicly now.
Okay.
But the police department is leading that nuisance business task force. We recently added the law department to that as another element of this. Obviously, they're going to be a necessary partner, looking at all aspects of what we can do around enforcement of nuisance properties. We also, within the Office of Public Safety, have a tactical meeting that we run where we're working with the police department and the various captains in the area, as well as all of the other city services that are available to address specific nuisance property issues in real time.
Thank you so much. I just want to say that I'm here to be your partner. My whole office is. In particular, if we can sort of just be watchful and maybe even ramp up what we're doing around group violence. This type of group violence locked West and Southwest Philadelphia down during the pandemic, and I would hate to see that come back when we've made so much traction. I also have to give credit to our DA that has made a focus of his work taking these groups down, right? So anything that we need to do to ramp up there. And then again, with the nuisance businesses, I want to know what we can do to escalate, not just giving businesses violations after violation after violation while they continue bad behavior, but escalating and getting them shut down if necessary, because it's very much a public safety issue.
We definitely will follow up. And just so you're aware, Friday we have a class graduating, and part of our deployment, one of the things that we see oftentimes is because of the borders between our districts, in that case, the 18th and the 19th district. So the Commissioner Stanford will be deploying footbeats that'll go across boundaries. They'll go into the 18th, across into the 19th, particularly in the area we're seeing that heightened violence. So on Friday, you'll see some additional relief as a result of the activity we just recently saw.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Council President.
You're welcome. Majority Deputy Whip Councilmember Cindy Bass and Councilmember Dr. Nina Ahmed, Councilmember Ketsi Lazada, and Councilmember Landau.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
How's everybody doing?
Councilwoman, how are
So
you?
I just want to start out by saying best police department in the nation.
There you go.
Best police department in the nation, absolutely, hands down. I want to say a quick thank you and shout out to Captains McCullum in the 14th, Burks in the 35th, Bradley in the 39th, as well as to you, Commissioner Bethel, your deputies, Dales, Healy, Smith, and of course, Mighty Massey. Ben Orr, Stanford, listen, everybody, I really shouldn't call names.
Squad.
I should not call names because I get in trouble. But I really want you to know that I really sincerely from my heart mean it, that the police department, hands down, has been so responsive to our needs and requests. I appreciate it, and I want all of you all to know that.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, and I forgot on my little list here, my inspectors, Buford, Thomas, Jeray Thomas, and Palumbo. And I also wanted to mention Officer Jamir, who is one of my nephews who just recently graduated from the academy and is so excited, and he has a whole village that is rooting for him.
He's not supposed to tell you any of the secret sauce, though.
He has not told us the
Okay,
secret
all right.
sauce.
All right.
Not yet, but now that I know there is a secret sauce, I'll be asking him tonight. No, but he's super excited, and again, he has a village around him that intends to support and uplift and make sure that he's the finest police officer that he possibly can be. And while we talk about, having a village around you, there are so many young people around us whose village is in pain and turmoil right now from the trauma of losing them. And so every year, I mention some of the same cases, and I just wanted to see if there was any sort of status update in some of these cases. And I really want to say the names because I don't want them to sort of get lost in the sauce. The first case I want to thank you for is the solving of the case of Devin Whedon, who was a 15-year-old who was walking to school down the street from Gratz. And that was solved last year, and I really want to thank you for that, for your hard work on that. I also wanted to mention Jeremiah Wilcox, who was shot and killed. He was a 13-year-old who was shot and killed on a porch with a bunch of other people. And that case has not been solved. It's been at least 3 or 4 years now. Damian Taylor, who was shot outside of, or on his way home catching a bus from Imhotep, who was a senior, which I believe that that case has not been officially closed, even though we think that the perpetrator himself was a victim of gun violence. So is that being worked on or working towards closure for that family? Also, 13-year-old Amir Akers, who attended Wagner Middle School, who actually lived in Councilman Phillips' district, but attended school in my district. And that was just last week. And then there was a young man who was also an Imhotep student, Kion Smith Tate, who was killed on Temple's campus in the Chipotle bathroom. You may remember back earlier this year. He was, I believe, 15 or 16 years of age. And I don't believe that that case has been solved. And finally, there was another young man, Mackay Partlow, who was a straight-A student working part-time at Burger King, was coming home on the bus, got off the bus and was shot and killed. And so these are cases that have been, I stay in touch with most of these families. I'm familiar with most of these families and connected in some way or another. And again, the village is looking for closure. And so we ask that, I know you probably don't have those cases, at your fingertips right now, but we would appreciate a response in writing when you have the opportunity to go back and do some research on those cases.
Yes, ma'am. And first, I appreciate you keep elevating them and raising them up. Grad's job, I think about that all the time because I was the chief of school safety and was on location shortly after the young man was killed, and glad to see that job came to closure. Damien, his mom texted me. I made a connection with his mom, and haven't talked to her recently, but near the end of Christmas, and as she continues to honor her son, and I know Commissioner Venora, we pushed hard on that job. So we can share with you an update across all of these. We'll also ensure that our victim advocacy team is reaching out to those families to make sure they know that they have a bridge and someone to be able to continually share information as we get to gather that information. But I appreciate you bringing these cases to light, and we'll definitely follow up with you before the end of the week with a status on each and every one of them.
I don't think there's anything harder than seeing a young person laying in a coffin. I don't think that there's anything worse in the world than to see what looks like, a young man, a child. And when I went to Jeremiah Wilcox's funeral, it's just, the image is just forever seared in my mind because he looked like a baby. He looked like a little kid. Even though he was 13, he looked very, very young. And so I appreciate your work, and I know that we'll hear a response from you all, and I appreciate that. I just want to say that. A couple of things. Nuisance businesses, I know that my colleagues have discussed this several times. One of my pet peeves, and I've discussed this before, is how in my district, a number of these nuisance businesses, we park a police car outside of the businesses. And the cars are there, they rotate at shift changes, and it just really kind of burns me up a little bit that it seems like the cause of the trouble is getting police protection. That's what it feels like. And I know that's not exactly what it is. You're really parking cars here to keep people from shooting one another. But nonetheless, it feels as if these cars are parked outside of a problem. And so rather than working with, like LNI, as my colleague, Councilwoman Jamie Gauthier mentioned, rather than working with LNI to get them shut down, I just think it would be a much bigger impact on police resources if we have PPD working to say to LNI, you need to close them. Like they need to go immediately when we see these kinds of businesses. And I don't know how we get that authority. If it's something we can legislate, then I'm willing to write a bill. But that's something that just needs to happen.
Yeah, I think we're really growing in this space. I don't know, Commissioner Venora, or not Healy wants to talk about it, but it's a blended approach, right? Sometimes we are working through that process of looking through a nuisance or a chronic location, but at the same time, we still is also important.
It's a legal issue too.
Yeah, and so it's also important for us to put a police officer down there because we want to make sure we're sending the message, that this violence is not going to continue, particularly when we're seeing high levels of violence. But I fully agree with you. We're getting better and far better at the process. Going through the tier process has been laid out in the ordinance to allow us to continue that, letters and going through that, working with LNI and others entities. But I definitely hear what you're saying. We're definitely trying to use both approaches as an and, because at the end of the day, community wants to say, where's the cop at though? Yeah, they won't understand if there's another shooting there and we were doing some kind of behind-the-scene legislative. And I know that's not what you're saying.
No,
so we kind of like to
saying.
plant the flag because the incident is already happening.
Right.
We're already taking action against what they did or did not do. But we also are planting the flag to make sure they understand, that we're going to disrupt their flow and their business as part of that as well.
Because if a business is causing us, if any particular business is causing us to spend additional money for their taxpayer dollars for that individual's protection. Everyone would love to have a police officer and a car parked at the top of their block. everybody wants that. Everybody would feel safer. But the idea that these particular businesses, which in my opinion, invite the foolishness, the chaos, the, unacceptable behaviors, and it's all from generally the products that they're selling, then, it feels really unfair for the rest of us who are spending, paying our taxes to get police protection, and at the same time, they're getting more than their fair share. And then there's a question of, are they paying their fair share? I don't know. Because I'll just say this, because the Revenue Department for a long time was not aware that they were selling liquor by the drink. And we know that Stop and Goes now sell liquor by the drink. And there's a school tax that's associated with that. So we weren't collecting taxes on that for a very long time. So just a thought. And I know that that's not something that you necessarily can do. And one last really quick question, which
That's a quick brief one, Member Bass.
Say again?
Quick brief one.
Yes. My question is about, obviously, summertime's coming, nervousness in the city. That's when things, there's an uptick in activity and violence as we get ready for Philly 250. We're going to see, all kinds of police activity. I'm assuming PPD is going to be working with other police agencies here in the city, whether it's the Housing Authority Police, the SEPTA Police, that there's all going to be some level of coordination among everyone, because the thought is that while there's so much activity downtown, in the neighborhoods where there isn't as much activity, there'll be other activity which will require police involvement, so.
Yeah, and I shared that earlier before
Yes.
you came in. We have a significant deployment plan. We will be using additional outsides out of the police department, collaborating. Yes, ma'am.
And I just want to make sure that's not going to include ICE, right?
No, ma'am.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, but we are going to have, but we also recognize, part of the mayor's 250, we're going to have a lot of neighborhood events. And as I shared earlier in council, that is one of our more violent days. July 4th in particular is one of our most violent days that we have historically going back decades. And so we will be doing a lot of work in the community to make sure we're providing, the safety for the community, as well as the events that we are going to be dealing with throughout the summer period.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome, ma'am.
Deputy Whip, you good? Straight? All right. No, you're welcome. No issues later on. The chair recognizes Councilmember Dr. Nina Mai, Ruland, Quetzalcoatl, Kendra Brooks.
Thank you, Council President. Good afternoon to everyone, to our public safety partners who are here. Thank you for joining us. I first want to start, like my colleagues, by saying thank you. And first I want to say thank you to every PPD member who puts themselves out there every day. I deeply appreciate that you take that risk on our behalf. And I thank you and all your members for that. This is obviously a collaborative space right now with Office of Public Safety and PPD here, and your dramatic decrease in homicides is extremely laudable. I wanted to also thank the Office of Public Safety for your partnership in getting that $500,000 human trafficking RFP off the ground. I'm very excited of the next steps and how the city will see how that money is being used and how we are actually having a strong awareness and prevention program with all the parts that you have allocated for that. And I wanted to give a special shout out to Dara Combs at the Office of a Victim Advocate within the Office of Public Safety for your leadership in moving this RFP, and of course Adam Gear for keeping the work moving forward. That said, the question. The question is for Police Commissioner. The fact that we know sexual assaults are increasing, 16% increase in 2024. The department's assault clearance rate in 2025 was 21%, as opposed to gun clearance, which was 79%. And I wanted to know, I did not see any specific benchmark for improving this clearance rate. If you could speak to that.
Yeah, we recognize coming out last year, and actually even in this year, that we're seeing an increase in our rape cases. And so part of the work that the Commissioner Venor is doing now is really getting into the details as exactly what is going on, i.e. stranger rapes is always a concern in this regard, and what are the assets and the things we need to do to be able to increase our solve rate. These are very challenging cases, as you know. Yes. Very, very challenging cases. You know this space. But we recognize that coming out of last year and even continue this year, we're seeing a slight increase in our rates this year. And so the team is working through that process now to identify where are the gaps in our deployment and our investigations, where do we need to increase our investigations. But rightfully, you've definitely identified an area that we are focusing on now this year because of what we're seeing.
I also wanted to follow that up with budget allocation in this space. So when you have a gun violence incident, you follow through all the way with deploying resources to try to solve that crime, right? In the case of a sexual assault, because of the sensitive nature of this crime, it starts with PSARC, the Philadelphia Sexual Assault Response Center. And that's where, the victims are sent, they're processed, rape kits are obtained, examination is done. If they need further care, including, looking at STD and pregnancy issues, those are all addressed through PSARC. Not one penny does PSARC get from the police department. Right now, last year they got some money, and this year the mayor again committed to $300,000, right? So they get reimbursed for their processing of the rape kit from the state, and that number is actually not enough to cover the general support that is needed to do that. So my question is, how come, and we can have a off-site conversation about how can this service be something we prioritize, that we support, and not just the police department, it also needs our hospitals to participate. Currently, Drexel University's nursing department is what is hosting it, and they're no longer going to be able to host it. So for this crime, with this kind of low clearance rate, it tells me it's not a priority. I'm just saying, this is, on the surface it looks to me, you tell me otherwise. I want to see how our city is taking this seriously and putting dollars, putting thought, giving us a plan, how we're going to address it, because a sexual assault never leaves that survivor, ever. It colors their entire life for the rest of their life. And for us to be, it seems cavalier. I don't want to say that it is. I know you guys take all of these crimes seriously, but numbers talk, allocation talks, and so if a budget is a moral document, let's see how we're going to solve this, how we make this a priority in the city of Philadelphia. So that's, maybe you want to answer that before I have one last question.
Yeah, I mean, so I hear you, Councilwoman, and we take all of the incidents seriously. The men and women as special victims. One of the things we went through, the National Incident-Based Reporting, NIBRS, they're changing in how they report, so we're reporting more rapes, so that's also accounting for some of the increase in numbers. We have 180 days to, the state requires that you have your DNA processed in 180 days. Mike Garvey and his team have been able to get that down to 90 days. And so we are, moving very diligently to be able to identify using DNA to address those issues. I know the issue around the center was a little bit around financing and where it comes from. I don't think there was ever any intention, ever whatsoever any intention that we believe that's one of the best models you can ever imagine. So I don't have that information as to what happened around, whether it came out of my funding or where that funding came. I believe it was just where it came from, but you're guaranteed that that's not a system that's going away because it's highly effective for our men and women. So we're still continuing to move forward. We do have a strategy, the team, and I can bring or follow up with you for purpose of time if you want, and give you a full breadth of how we take an investigation from beginning to end, Again, understanding the challenges, particularly when you don't have DNA and it's a stranger, but that my team is working diligently to be able to bring those individuals who engage in this type of behavior into arrest.
Thank you for that. What I would love to see is the Office of Public Safety work with you to have these wraparound services. It has to start in primary school, talking about, how we treat each other, all the way for it to become a crime, a sexual assault. So I need communication with the school district,
Dr.
all of
Vlad.
those things, and I need the Public Safety Office to make this a priority because you guys are amplifying what the police department is doing and giving them feedback. So I really would love to see a plan of how we are addressing sexual assault in Philadelphia. Thank you, Council
Just for
President.
the record, could you provide the timeline and the plan to the chair, not provided to members of council as a follow-up?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Chair recognizes Councilman Ruli Endow, Ketty Lazada, Kendra Brooks. And if we have time, Councilmember Isaiah Thomas and Squilla before we break for lunch. But just for the record to all the members, the fire department will not be here on this afternoon section, so we're going to ask you to continue to come back so we can finish our second round.
Yes,
Just
sir.
for the record.
Great. Thank you, Council President. Thank you all for being here. Congratulations to you, to everybody in this room for such an incredible reduction in violent crime in our city and in gun violence. That work only happens when working together and collaboratively. So I do want to just underscore what I've been hearing my colleagues say, which is that from the moment crime is happening in a neighborhood to actually going to a funeral for a young person, it is extremely important that you collaborate with us as well, because the only way to make this work is each one of you is an octopus, and we are definitely here to do that work with you. So we'd love to see more of that collaboration. But I want to talk about drones. Yesterday, the Philadelphia Inquirer reported that drones have become a staple of daily police work since 2024, with 21 drones being deployed 8,000 times in total. We know that transparency and oversight are critical when developing new strategies around public safety, and as chair of the Tech Committee, last year on February 15, 2025, I asked for details around the program in a letter to Commissioner Bethel, which you responded to. Thank you so much. I was alarmed at the time because these drones were purchased with funds from the Police Foundation, meaning the public and City Council had little awareness and oversight over the original purchase. After yesterday's report, I remain alarmed. There are not proper guardrails in place and that there is a lack of transparency. So I have a slew of questions I would like to put on the record right now. Does the PPD conduct any internal evaluation or reporting on the city's surveillance system? If so, can a copy of that report be sent to City Council for review and made public for concerned residents? I'm asking now, would you be open to submitting an annual report detailing drone use and related metrics like Boston requires? What protections has PPD put in place to ensure this technology is not misused by individual officers? How effective is the city's surveillance network in reducing or deterring crimes? Has the department seen any correlation between the funding invested in surveillance technology and a reduction in crime? If so, can you provide a copy of or access to the data that supports your answer? When will a finalized, publicly available policy for their use within PPD and other public safety departments be finalized? How do we ensure that all hardware and software contractors and subcontractors will protect all the data recorded by these drones? Where is the data being stored? Who are the parties ensuring its security?
Member Landau, go ahead and ask them the question, because you give
These
them
are all
10
questions, and
for
are
them to
you
answer.
sharing any of this information with the Trump administration, including ICE? And over the past year, how many requests has PPD received from ICE to access data collected through the city's surveillance network? Last one, can the department provide City Council preferably made public, a report on all requests ICE has made since
And
2020.
for the record, I support the spirit of you asking these questions, but how are you going to answer these questions, sir? You want to give them a copy of the list?
Yeah,
So you can
I also
answer.
have another list that I'd like to submit in
I
writing,
mean, the
if that's
internal
okay. That was
evaluation,
just for
part of
today.
our policy, we evaluate, just as we do our body-worn camera, to be able to evaluate the footage. When you talk about where that hardware, we use Axon, Skydio is our drone that we use. That footage goes into our Axon bodyworn evidence.com, the same where our camera video goes, the same place where our body-worn cameras goes, the same place where the DA's office, the Defenders Association, and others have access to that footage associated with a crime. So we will do. As it relates to annual drone report, I'm not familiar with Boston. Our plan is to present a dashboard to the community. We're working through the finalizing of that to put up a dashboard that will show you similar to Chula Vista that was listed in the article, one of the first companies in California to establish that, to be able to show the missions that are being flown. There have been about 9,000 missions that have been flown across the city this year since we initiated the program. That is our goal, to have that system up and running. I don't know about an annual report, but we're more than glad to look into that. You said protection for not misuse. Our policy, first and foremost, you have to be a certified FAA drone pilot to use the drone. So an officer cannot take a drone and fly the drone without one being
Commissioner, can I have a point of information?
Yes, sir.
You said you're not too sure about an annual report. What would
No, I
be?
didn't say not too sure. He said about Boston. I'm not sure what Boston's
I
annual
heard
report
you
is.
say that part,
Right.
but then you followed up and you made a statement regarding an annual report. A direct question was, as you build this out in the future, would you be willing to provide an annual report of what the drone program looks like as a matter of transparency?
Yeah, that's not a problem. I think what the councilwoman was talking about, some more granular things that may not be provided to the public, but that's, so not my caution is just, yes, we can provide a report, no question about that. What's in the report would have to be something we would have to talk, but we can walk through that. There's no, I mean, because you're going to see it, that's why I pivot to the dashboard. You're going to see what we're flying every day, all the time, and then we can obviously create a report from that. So no pushback there, sir. Again, talking about the men and women who are protection against misuse, we have a policy, as you know, to ensure that, what the drone can be used for. I know there are entities around surveillance. We do not do surveillance with the devices. We know we can't use it. I mean, we need a warrant to go into a home. So we can't. There's certain things that we have significant prohibitions on what we use. This is a first responder model. It is flying to priority 1 and priority 2 cases, or in the 4 designated districts we have now. In that case, the officer is hitting the button on his CAD's computer-aided dispatch system, where that drone will automatically fly to that location and where the pilot will take over. So we're not doing surveillances. That is not how the process operated. It operates as an emergency response to be able to do. It operates as a situational awareness to make sure that the officers give them live feeds of what they're encountering on the ground. We believe this is going to be a benefit for us. It improves, de-escalation and some of the staffing gaps that we have as it makes sure that an officer is on the ground, oftentimes by themselves, responding to a priority 1 case. The finalizing of policy, I believe the policy went out on 4/28/25.
Okay.
The policy is, but it is redacted because there are certain things that is not exposed to the public. I believe there was some incident that was pulled down. I don't know if that be the case, but I will double check that. I think ICE, we do not provide any of our abilities to ICE. However, just like any federal entity, if they were to get a federal subpoena requesting that there was something that engaged ICE, but they have not asked us to deploy with them, we have not deployed with them. But as you know, as an attorney, if we were to receive a federal subpoena for any of that activity, we would be required to turn that over. I think that was the last
I think you
thing.
got the majority of it. I have a question. You're saying that the policy that's online now, that's redacted, is the current final policy, or is it being updated?
I believe so. That would be the case. That is correct. And just so you know, Councilwoman, we had a video earlier. We weren't able to show it. We would have shown you in that video an incident in the park where a young man with special needs who got lost from his parents. And because we were using the drone, we were able to find that child in 8 minutes. You were seen in that video where marshals are doing a high-risk warrant, and an individual secretes himself in a kind of what do you want to call it, some kind of box or whatever he was, some shed that was in the back of a yard. That situational awareness allows those men and women to come in a different tactics, knowing that the person's in there, to potentially minimize the use of deadly force. And so we see this as a force multiplier, and we also recognize that it's ahead of the courts. It's ahead of the folks who think that we're surveilling. And we have been very, and finally, I know you've kind of talked about the foundation. The foundation was a feeder into what the city gave, over $2 million to support our drone project. We started this process, and here in 2023, came out of the blueprint for Philadelphia around drones and bringing drones as a tool that has to be used in this space. From that, we took that charge from this body and moved forward with implementing what we think is one of the more formidable drone programs in the nation. We are one of the top because of how we're operating, how we're doing it effectively.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Austin.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilman Ketsi Lozada, the Minority Leader Kendra Brooks, Isaiah Thomas, and Councilmember Squilla will wrap us up for the first round.
Thank you, Council President. Good afternoon at this point. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for your partnership. I know every member has a different relationship with different city departments. I have to say that last year, the year before last, and probably the year before that, there were a lot of folks who said that we would not decrease public safety, or we would not improve public safety and decrease crime in districts like the 7th Council District because it was just too out of control. Working in partnership with the police department, but very specifically with Deputy Commissioner Rosario and the men and women in the 24th, 25th, and in the 15th, I think that the reason why we are seeing the historic decrease in crime is because we have been able to stabilize to a certain extent the Kensington community and quality of life in the 7th Council District. I work very closely with you all around the 24-hour cleaning pilot, business curfew. We've done program oversight. We've increased police presence. We coordinated mobile services. We've supported the wellness center, PAD officers. And you've done all of that prioritizing community voice, community support, community buy-in, and for that I have to say that I'm extremely grateful, because we would not be here today, and I'm not saying that life in the 7th Council District is where it needs to be, but I think that life is significantly better in the 7th Council District because together allowing the community to be a part of the strategy and the work that is being done on the ground is why we are where we are today. And so for that, I am extremely grateful. That being said, what are we doing to ensure that all of the work that has been done is sustainable, and that we are going to continue to see an increase and an improvement in quality of life in the 7th Council District?
Well, first I want to thank you and the caucus. I know when the time I arrived between you and the Kensington caucus has been laser focused on this work, and so I just want to say thank you. I mean, this doesn't get happening if you don't have the supports from the team, and more importantly, giving us the tools to be able to put in place to help us along this journey. I know it's taken far longer than you would, and we know that. And so what I'd like to do, I know I've talked a lot, but I want folks to hear Commissioner Rosario. I want him to come up briefly and just talk through what he's doing, what are the next steps. I mean, here's a person who's been leading the Kensington project since the day I arrived, and I think it's fair to him and it's to his body to hear what's happening on the ground, what he's doing, the things that he's done to set the foundation, and our steps moving, particularly as Commissioner Stanford has pushed them to elevate the work for the summer period coming.
Thank you.
Come on up. I won't be able to roll my R's like he does, but we'll make it work.
Good morning, Councilwoman. Good morning, Council President.
Just state your name for the record.
Yes, sir. Pedro Rosario, Deputy Commissioner for the Philadelphia Police Department. To your point, ma'am, one of the biggest concerns that we've been focusing on is the summer surge, right? We know as the weather gets warmer in Kensington, we see an uptick in our unsheltered count. And the focus really for us to really stabilize that quality of life in that area has been to slowly, gradually address that number of people that are constantly in our space. And I cannot tell you the amount of collaboration and effort that has gone to work with all of my colleagues in city government, especially Office of Public Safety, Director Gear and his team, really lockstep with us in being able to support the Wellness Center and those operations that go on there. You know, I'm very proud of that work. Initially, also someone that I don't want to leave out in acknowledging the support is the First Judicial District from the courts, right? They have rolled up their sleeves along with us, understanding that this is a societal problem that requires a very, very complicated and collaborative response from all of government, including the courts. So having them in hand with us has been able really to address that population, and we are continuously, although gradually, to bring that number down each month as we compare over the last couple of years. One of the big things was we just recently stepped up to a second day of wellness operations. So now we're operating 2 days a week. The anticipation is that we'll be able to expand that very quickly before the summer approaches to be able to continue to address that populace there. But the other thing to what the commissioner was leading to also is also the enforcement piece, right? We're not slowing down with regards to taking the dangerous criminal element off the street. We are doubling down on our efforts and making sure that the officers assigned to the mini station, we're trying to provide them additional training in partnership with our narcotics strike force to be able to give them that added situational awareness when they're operating on the street, to be able to be proactive against the drug dealer, right? So that's a lot of that specificity that we're addressing now to be able to attack some of the issues that we're still dealing with today.
And I want to be clear. I mean, I attended a meeting, as you know, last week, and and I will tell this body it was one of the most phenomenal meetings I've been in. I go to a lot of great meetings, and so I'm not cherry picking, but to see the number of people, almost 200 to 300 people, the energy, their zest for making sure, their support, and seeing Principal Green from Conwell Middle School sitting in that crowd, still there from the day I met her when I was at the school district, and that commitment as she sits her school in the epicenter of that area. We will not, and that mayor has made that very clear, going backwards. We're going to hold and move forward, and hold and move forward. There is no holding and going back. That is not in our structure, is not in our DNA, and there's been too many commitments, too much investment. And when I look at that community, I walked away from there filled with pride and filled my engine up to say, we know our why, Councilwoman. We know our why as it relates to that community, and we know your caucus and all of you are your why. We're honored to be serving in this place, and we're going to win. We're going to win for you. All right.
I believe that, right? I think that there is a sense of hope to win in the district that there was not for many, many years. And so I appreciate that. And it speaks a lot to the fact that you have someone leading this work that people trust, right? And that people can relate to, and who is brutally honest with us when things are not right. He's not afraid to say, this is what it is. And so I applaud the work that Commissioner Rosario has done in the 7th Council District and in the police department. Like many of my colleagues, nuisance businesses are very problematic, right? The 24-hour business curfew was a tool that we put in the police department's toolbox to help us respond to some of the public safety issues that we have. Some of the challenges that we are experiencing is that many of them don't fear a CBN. It's not a big deal to them.
Can I have a point of information, Member Lozada, if that's okay? Do we still have the Jump Out boys?
Jump out, no.
Well, excuse me, narcotics team that goes out into the stores, because I've worked with Member Lozada on this issue, and I did a tour in Kensington. And a lot of times, what I've learned is the store owners are held hostage to the young guys doing the hustling.
Oh, yeah.
So they're not going to tell because they're in fear of their lives. And so the reason why I was just thinking about the narcotics team, because you got plainclothes guys that can run up in these stores, do the operation, do this thing while they're outside, hustling while they go inside and do safe harbor inside the stores. And so I was just wondering, because I've witnessed that with her. We come down the corridor together, group of guys standing outside, not worrying about if we the council people or not. And I watched the dynamic of basically, we're gonna hold the store hostage, and obviously in that situation, store owner, he worried more about his life than calling Deputy Commissioner Rosario and saying, hey, these guys are hustling inside my store, because that's putting his life at risk. And so I just want to get an idea about that.
I mean, we have our
talk
violence
about it for the record.
Yes, sir. We have our violence response team, our VRT teams. We have our narcotic strike force that do a lot of street drug activity. But one of the things we see, there's a gap. And that's what Commissioner Rosario is talking about as it relates to Kensington. With the number of officers that we have down there, now that we're keeping them down there longer, is now the objective is to give them the better skill set to be able to go after those stores and those locations. Clementine, they know I call them all the time. If I go by that store one more time and see 10 people outside of that store, there's a problem. So we are looking at that. We understand what we need to do in that space, but we don't have to
not
jump
allowed
out.
to just run up on them like back in the day, like get against the wall, pat them down.
I mean, now listen, if you put in a bill to give me, we would entertain it, but.
Understood,
yeah,
sir.
I may be walking out here with
I
handcuffs.
just wanted
Remember Lozada?
to focus on that
No.
because as we move closer to the events that are going to be happening in the city of Philadelphia, and as we talk about economic opportunities for all, I want the businesses in the 7th who have not been able to benefit from those economic opportunities because of all of the social injustices that are happening on the ground. I want them to feel like we're creating that opportunity for them, that they matter too, and that there is that opportunity for them. Businesses are not going to choose the Kensington corridor, the Wyoming Street corridor, the North Fifth Street corridor, the Hunting Park corridor, if we allow for these types of businesses to continue to occupy neighborhoods. These men and women who don't feel like there are things to do or there is another way for them to be able to put food on the table, and they continue to occupy neighborhoods. If we allow for people to continue to openly use, those things are going to keep those economic opportunities that we are praising and talking about away from those commercial corridors that are supposed to be the economic engines of neighborhoods. And so I just want us to continue to prioritize those neighborhoods that we as government have for a really long time ignored, and that we've started to make better, right? And that as all of these visitors come into the neighborhood, that when they go to Kensington because they've seen it on the national platforms for all of these negative things, that when they get there, they are faced and confronted and find something different. So,
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Council President.
No, thank you very much. Councilmember Brooks, then just Councilmember Brooks.
Okay. Thank you, Council President. I have some questions.
Speaking to that microphone, Minority Leader Brooks.
Okay. I have some questions for the Office of Public Safety. I have a bunch of questions, but I just want to get these on the record, so I might just go through real quick, and then when we come back for the second round, I'll do police department and the prisons. So my question is about the Riverview Wellness Center. You know, it has been touted as a success by the administration, but we've had a hard time getting details about the operations, including specifics on the total number of patients and outcomes. So the administration is proposing an additional $211 million in operating funds. What exactly would this $211 million go to, and how is the administration thinking about the long-term financial implications of running this wellness center? Because last year, the administration sent a letter to council about Medicaid reimbursement and additional avenues of funding from the state and the feds. What is the status of these reimbursement rates?
Good afternoon, Council Member. We did have representative from the Riverview Wellness Village, our director. I do not see her here. That is an operation that is run out of the managing director's office, so I'm not prepared to speak to that budgetary item today.
Okay. Even wellness courts, is that out of?
Wellness court is me. Yes,
Okay.
correct, Council Member.
So how is the office defining the success of wellness court? Are we talking about reduced arrests, reduced overdoses, or engagement with long-term recovery? And this is a series of questions, so I just want to get them all on the record. What is the office's goal for wellness court? What percentage of participants successfully complete wellness court, and how is completion defined? What are the most common reasons participants do not complete this program, and how does the program track rearrest rates compared to traditional prosecution?
Thank you very much for those questions, Council Member. We are very proud of how far we've come with the Wellness Court pilot under the leadership of our director, Eleni Belasanzi. We have undergone now, thanks to the funding last year, we're just about to complete our full funding, full rounding out of that staff complement, which will be about 17 individuals. You raise really, really, really great questions about how we're defining success, what we think success is in the program. So if I can get into that just a bit here. Success for us looks like what we're seeing. And it is somewhat difficult to find, but what we're seeing is lower street number counts of folks who are experiencing homelessness on the streets. We're seeing lower overdoses. We're seeing a lower prison population. At the same time, we're seeing more folks engaging with services, more folks being offered services.
Mr. Gear.
Yes.
As a point of information, could you also provide the minority with the actual data?
Yes.
So the key things that you're saying you're reducing, either you can provide them today or just provide them to us in writing, just for the record, sir.
Absolutely, we absolutely will. I can get into some of those numbers now for you. We had 339 total neighborhood wellness court arrests. Now, a portion of them won't make it to wellness court for various reasons, whether that's the first person they see is a doctor, a nurse rather. So if they're decompensating or if they're not feeling well, if we don't feel that they can continue on, that person will leave the track for the day. They also might have bench warrants, which would preclude them ordinarily from being able to access services. But out of the cases that had bench warrants, we were able to clear approximately 69%, and my team will correct me if I'm wrong, 69% of those cases. And so that's a first, right? And that is actually operating 5 days a week, where folks are able to have their bench warrants cleared the day of and not have to be taken up to State Road or held in custody over the weekend or something like that in order to have their case to continue on in the system. So we define all of those things as success. 165 people received same-day behavioral health assessments. 51 were referred to inpatient, 77 were referred to outpatient treatment. 55 people received same-day housing assessments. I will give you some more numbers here. And this is one that I think gets to your point. This is provided by Marikey, one of our primary service provider with our wellness court operations. Of 281 people who interacted with wellness court, so of 281 of the people they interacted with, 96 or 34% unique individuals subsequently engaged with the Marikey program after their arrest. So this is after their arrest, 34% are actually coming back. So they're aware that resources are available. We've had that initial contact point, which is part of the point of just re-engaging folks. They know that the Wellness Support Center, again, that Director August oversees, is a welcoming place. Even though the police department staffs a segment of that building pad, they've built up trust in what that location means in the community, where folks are coming in, they're getting real meals. Director August said, Adam, we need a shower. We need a shower in the Wellness Support Center. This is about dignity. There's a shower where they can come and take a shower. We have medically assisted treatment now, which is in the really nice parking lot where Mural Arts did a mural. So this is all getting to the point of how we're defining success, and that's what success looks like to us. There is a very real, there's a court number that we have to run by the court, which is their definition of the case is complete from the First Judicial District's perspective. And I think it's important for me to reemphasize, as Commissioner Rosario did, that they have been tremendous partners. We have asked them for a lot. They've dedicated a judge, Judge Losier, who now sits, that's all she does, is sit over Wellness Court for 5 days. She's absolutely tremendous. By the court's definition, 20 folks have completed the program. That's that hard deadline of the court's definition, right? But success looks to us like they might have pled guilty and their case is over, but a week later, they're walking into Kurtz Center and saying, hey, I was just here last week, can you help me?
Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the data as well. Just also make sure we're getting in writing now. Very comprehensive. To wrap us up before we go into our break is Councilmember Majority Whip Isaiah Thomas.
Thank you, Council President. Good afternoon, everybody. Similar to my colleagues, thank you for the work that's being done. I hear a lot of dialogue today about the crime rate being down. I want to try to go into a different direction. I do want to apologize publicly because I did tell you I would get you questions ahead of time, and they did not come to you in a timely fashion, so I will own that because that is on me, so I do apologize for that. But we did get you questions. A couple I do want to get on the record. From 2020, and this wasn't one of my questions, it just came to me from sitting here. From 2020 to 2022, the clearance rate was between 50 and 55%. As of now, the clearance rate is over 70% on homicides. I remember when I first got in the office, one of the things that I thought was unique was when you guys took us down to the Delaware Valley Intelligence Center and you briefed us specifically on non-fatal shootings. And I thought it was ironic that we had a better clearance rate when someone actually died compared to when someone actually survived. So 2 questions. Number 1, where are we now as it relates to our clearance rate on non-fatal shootings compared to shootings? And number 2, let's pretend 10 or 15 years from now, unfortunately, something else presents itself. What advice would you give to Philadelphia 10 years from now if we were to see a spike in gun violence as it relates to how we were able to address the clearance rate specifically on homicides? What did we do different over the last couple years to get that clearance rate to jump about 20 points?
I think there's a multitude of factors. When you have a situation where you have over 560 homicides, I mean, that's unheard of to have detectives having, on average, Frank, maybe 2 cases a year, 3. When you have that level of violence, it becomes far greater and far more challenging to be able to investigate those cases effectively, right? And so part of that process, one is how as the crime comes down and the homicides come down. Today we are 31 homicides. Those men and women are digging into all of those, and we have a clearance rate that's over 100%. I think it's 140% because we're clearing so many of those cases now because one time, but technology has evolved today as well.
So your technology improved from 2022 when we were at 50%?
It's this progression, right? I mean, from the forensics part of it, from the DNA, what the DNA team is able to do, whether it be touch DNA, rapid DNA, that kind of DNA is important. The technology that we now have in our homicide, we have the same technology that our federal partners have as it relates to phone technology and other things. We now have license plate readers and the video camera system that we have across the city.
So you would say the investment in technology is the biggest single, only because I'm limited on time.
Not the biggest single. No, I talked about the earlier.
Point of information.
I'm sorry.
Can I also press you on one issue? What's the difference in terms of strategy, in terms of targeting versus cops just going out and just locking everybody up?
I mean, we've always embraced that strategy. You know, that has been the strategy I had before I came back. Commissioner Stanford had re-engaged that, and the team had been re-engaged that when it come back. It's being very strategic. We know where our violence is. Even though it's come down in the city, even though I talked about the 31 homicides, 130 plus shootings, it's still in the same areas that we always have them.
Sure. So a combination of intelligence and technology has put us in a position
So,
to...
piece of it, right? I mean,
Yeah.
so when I talk about that, I say if I'm 10 years, I won't be here 10 years, but 10 years from now, I mean, if you're sitting here, I would say the greatest failure is that we did not stay focused on that technology, that we allow it to fall back, because that's what we do. It looks great, it's great, it's shiny, we want it, we tell you it's great, but then when it comes to a budget cut, those things are cut, right? We talk about with this giving money to our community groups and out there in the field. Okay, I mean, that is working, right? And so we know that is working. The work is working on the OPS. So a part of what we need to do is memorialize all of these things that we're doing. I know with his strategic plan and our strategic plan, linking them together and saying, hey, here's where we are. Here's the blueprint. If we believe in the strategy,
sure.
Everybody waiting for us to go back. I don't do that.
No,
right?
we don't suggest that.
You, not you, no. I'm not saying you're saying that, but every time hey man, no. If we believe that the strategy is right, if we believe that the technology is right, if we believe our focus on our core areas and those areas, so to your point, the time where I go to hit 10 guys on the corner, I don't need to do that anymore. I just get the one. Because I know he's the one she's the one who's engaging in that level of violence. So being very strategic with the intelligence. When you went down to the Delaware Valley Center, I mean, that is one of our core areas, right? We can get into the data. We can determine, hey, guess what? 2 people shot each other. No longer are we trying to figure it out. Oh, he's from north side, he's from south side. We got a problem.
Got the intelligence.
You know what I mean? And
so where are we at with our clearance rate compared to homicides compared to non-fatal shootings? What are we looking at? Can we just get those numbers on the record real quick? Then I want to switch over to driving equality.
Yeah, last year one of the things that Commissioner Bernard brought to the department before I even came back and was under Commissioner Stanford was really looking at those shootings and like homicides. Bringing those men and women, like what they did, we centralized it to a homicide, and they sit right next to homicide. So we got 2 beasts in our space now. 43% clearance rate on shootings, non-fatal shootings. When I left the department, Councilman, I think it would luckily be 11 or 12%. I mean, I don't even know what was there.
I remember.
Right? The numbers that they are doing are absolutely some of the best in the nation as it relates to going after those entities.
So,
yes, sir.
Commissioner Bethel, because that's my bell and I got to get to driving equality. Take 15 seconds to tell the general public, why is it that your clearance rate is higher for a homicide than a non-fatal shooting?
Well, I mean, I think it's a combination. One is a smaller number, right? We only have 31 homicides. 2, the clearance rates carry over from previous years. So as they're solving crimes, and say again? Yeah, so calculate a little bit different. So our SIGs are being calculated in the year that they're happening.
Sure. So I referenced 2022 for a reason, because that was the year we passed driving equality. And unfortunately right now we're still dealing with fights, whereas though the Supreme Court in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania has actually taken the driving equality case as it's been appealed all the way to the Supreme Court, which is unfortunate, but it's the situation that we're in. Looking at the fact that crime has dropped significantly since driving equality has been into place, can you talk to me a little bit about how the police department is enforcing the law and the impacts it's had on the city since it's been implemented?
I mean, as I shared with you, I mean, we categorize every time an officer stops an individual, they have to tell the why. What that purpose is. And so what that data has been able to do is really laser focus on and train them and change the culture that they need to be stopping cars for these primary offenses. No longer are they able to do those, stops, those pretext stops that you identified in your bill. But again, as I shared with you, 90% of our work was not that, right? 90% of the total number of stops we were making were around car stops, for individuals who are engaging in things that were outside the scope of the bill you put forward. And so we've been able to track that information. As I shared with you, it's a little bit more challenging getting to more of the granular piece, and we're still working through that. But we can see through the data now, as we go through our car stops, that the men and women are stopping those vehicles appropriately. Obviously, that information is on their body-worn cameras, so we're able to capture that. And now, Councilman, we're able to capture that on their in-car cameras. The in-car cameras, every time the officer turns on his overhead lights to pull over that car, we can now capture the full context of the stop, and what's engaging in that process. So I think we're in a good place as it relates to moving away from those pretext stops to the more, more egregious type of activity, more aggressive. And we're doing that now, as Commissioner Cram has led that effort, where we're doing surges in different areas because we are getting a lot of complaints in the community meetings about the aggressive driving. We are getting complaints about, folks are not adhering to, now Broad Street, man, you came, the lights, the cameras, man. I got $200 worth of tickets my wife got.
Rough.
So I tell her she can't drive down Broad Street anymore. But
you got bike lanes on 13th Street. That's rough too.
But
Member Thomas, go ahead, sir.
No, it's ironic that you are getting complaints about people driving aggressively while we're actively trying to do everything we can to calm that. Just for the record, in 2020, we seen more hit and runs in the city of Philadelphia than what we had seen in recent history. It was a significant spike. And based on the work that you and your team has done along with this legislative body, while people are upset about Broad Street cameras, that stuff has been down significantly. 100%. And, I always commend Captain Overwise, who's no longer here with us as it relates to being with the police department, for the work that he did leading that effort to put us in a position to try to address those things. As I close out, Council President, in 2024, officers failed to document violations in about 25-ish, a little less than 25% of traffic stops. And we know a big part of driving equality was the data that comes with it. And so we're concerned around the reporting of the data. We haven't been able to put us in a position to essentially collect the data the way we want. But in the midst of what has been reported, previously, tent stops made up 19% of all traffic stops in 2022. That's only 1.5% of traffic stops now. For the record, tent is not a part of driving equality, so someone can be pulled over if they're violating the law as it relates to the amount of tent in their car. So in 2022, that was 19% of stops, whereas though in 2024, that number dropped to about 1.5% of stops. What are we doing different? This is my last question for this round, Council President. What are we doing different as it relates to traffic stops? Is it how we're categorizing a stop? Is it what we're stopping people for? Why do we see a significant drop in that number? Is it a strategy thing? Help us understand as it relates to that particular thing, and then that'll be it for me, Council President. Thank you, sir.
Council, I would have to follow up. I don't have the specific data on that, but I'll have my team, I know they're capturing that now, and be able to follow up with you.
An apology, because I did get that question to you, and I apologize for getting it to you late. And just as a moment of personal privilege, Council President, today's my mother's birthday, so I want to say happily birthday to my mother. That's been on my mind all day today. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you.
Oh, that's right. Also, Commissioner, just in the line of questioning of Councilmember Thomas, and if you could also provide data regarding guns recovered from pulling cars over. Just want to get an idea. The recovery of guns when you pull a car over, right? I come from that era, so you driving this under the seat and all that. I want to get an idea where we're at in this day and time. Just, because we still see the shootings and homicides going on. Like, let's not act like that's not a thing. And also, it's normally not with these guys using their own cars. You rent a car now. That's, for the most part.
Or most of them steal them. But
yeah, or steal them as well. So, just want to get an idea what that looks like. But we're going to wrap up for right now. And I do want to just say, 2 officers that you have walked me through the process when I showed up on the scene in Grays Ferry where the garage fell on the members of Ironworkers 401. It was the captain of the 17th Police District, Captain McKinney, and also Inspector Jamil Taylor, who's also a childhood friend, and they walked me and my team through the process. And so I just want to personally just say, I thank them. I thank them for being very thorough and very detailed on a very traumatizing experience, and they just walked us through everything and made sure we had all the details. And because there's a lot of misinformation going on at the same time during a very, very serious situation. So I just want to acknowledge them publicly for just being at the right place at the right time, but also being thorough in terms of their service to the city.
Thank you for that, Councilman. Leadership matters. They were on the ground from the time it happened, working all the way through countless hours to make sure that went successfully. And I appreciate you bringing that. It means a lot to them, and it means a lot to us. Thank you so much.
Council will be at recess until 2:30.